Hello, ladies. Hello, gentlemen. It's your boy, Chase Face. I don't really have much else of an intro planned, but I got my buddy here. He is a streamer on Twitch known as Battle Athlete, but I know him as Cliff, because that's a fucking really cool name, and I don't know any Cliffs. So say hello to the beautiful people, Cliff.
Hi, hello, beautiful people. I'm Cliff Athlete. Oh, can we start over? Ah, shit, I messed it up. Can we do it over? Oh no, everyone's gonna think I'm stupid now.
It's okay. We love you for your stupidity.
Thank you.
I probably had a handful of people that I could do this podcast with because I do have a lot of friends that are genuinely into Sonic, but I actually didn't even know until I looked it up. Isn't Battle Athlete like a game by Sega?
It's actually originally like actually, I think, I'm not sure if the game came first or the anime, but originally I found out it was an 80s anime, then I found like it was a video game, and yeah, it was never released in America. It was very obscure. You've probably never heard of it.
Wait a second. Am I thinking of like Battle Mania Daiginjo, the one with the girls with the guns?
I think you are.
Wait, is that the same one?
No, there's Battle Athletes, which is what it was called, which it's called in America. Like the anime and OVA and TV series had DVD releases in America, but they had video games that were never released in America, and like it's called some other wacky ass Japanese name in like Japan that I couldn't possibly begin to pronounce, but I played this
over there. It's just called wacky ass Japanese game.
That would be great if that's what it actually translated to, because I honestly I would change my alias and everything. I would just completely redo my brand.
That would be a very wordy branding.
Put it on a shirt, it'll sell.
But yeah, I was gonna say that like I know you because you, of all people that I know, seem to be a particularly big like Sega fan, and I've always liked Sega since I was a kid. Like I've always loved Dreamcast and the Genesis and everything. I figured you're probably the best person that I can do this podcast with, just because you kind of deserve it. You kind of deserve to have that spot for this topic. So I will begin by asking my beautiful guest Cliff.
Dude, you were flattering me so much. It's almost like you got something to gain from me, but you don't, sucker.
You can pay me afterwards. It's okay. They don't have to know. So I have a whole typed up questionnaire thingy here. And if you're one of the people that doesn't care about any of the other, I mean, even though it's called a ramble, the whole point of the ramble is that, we just kind of talk naturally and let it flow and whatever.
I gotcha.
But if you're one of those people that understandably just wants to get to the meat of it and just talk about the actual focus of the episode, then I'll have a comment pinned at the top of the video or at the top of the comment section that you can just click on the annotation. It'll take you right to the actual Sonic Mania conversation. But I always like to, let my viewers know who they're listening to and what they like and everything. So the first question that I have for Cliff is, what's your history with Sega and/or Sonic games in general? Like kind of take me back to when you first got into it.
Oh man. Like, dude, everybody has such a great story for like how Sonic just kind of pretty much changed their lives and probably like got them addicted to video games. Like I already liked video games, but dude, something about Sonic just appeals to me like on a personal level. Because I don't know if I've ever told you, but super speed is actually my favorite superpower. Like the Flash, Sonic the Hedgehog. There's not really that like there's Quicksilver and stuff like that. Just being able to go really fast. So seeing this character,
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Really vibrant blue, red, white colors, just traversing these levels at really fast speeds, especially at the time. There wasn't a lot of games that went as fast as Sonic. A lot of games have evolved since then, so we're kind of used to seeing games move quickly.
Now everything has blast processing.
Exactly. Yeah, everybody's got like their super speed, and there's all things can move so much faster. But dude, at the time when you saw Sonic the Hedgehog, like dude, he was hauling ass, and you were like, oh my god, a game can run like this. And he started going so fast he would leave the screen like on Chemical Plant Zone. That shit blew our minds. Like that's just something you're like, oh, the game can't scroll fast enough to keep up with Sonic, blah blah blah. And you know how it works, right? But when you're a kid and you're like, damn, Sonic is hauling so much ass in Chemical Plant Zone, even the game is like, oh shit, slow down, Sonic. Like holy shit, you're so fast, like
I don't even really think about the fact that when the game first came out, that was like really groundbreaking, like the frame rate and just how like fast everything would process. Because if you had too many enemies on screen in Super Mario World, then that shit would slow down to a crawl. So it's like that's honestly something I don't even think about when I think back to the original game. But when I think back to the original game, I always just think about like I think Marble Zone or Marble Hill Zone, I think it was called. It's been a while since I actually looked at that, at anything from Sonic 1, because I actually really don't like that game.
Yeah. Going back
I just remember the bo 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 do 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 do, and I liked the melody, and I liked the lava, and it actually filled me with like a sense of tension and anxiety, and it was really crazy. And then I didn't really actually get that far in the original game when I was a kid, but I knew those 3 levels like the back of my hand, and I thought they were really cool.
Yeah, I had played the first one, but it wasn't really. I guess I didn't clarify. As like I didn't really get my hands on Sonic until about 2. I had seen 1, but you're a kid, you don't have control over seeing it and stuff like that. But
I think that's kind of where a lot of people like got started too, because wasn't Sonic 2 like insanely more popular than Sonic 1? I'm pretty sure I looked at the figures and it was like way more high performing than the first Sonic.
It really was. Also because I think they did it with the first one too, but they included a Genesis with Sonic 2.
Yeah.
And that's how so many people were introduced to one of their best games. They got the game that they wanted the system for bundled together. Yeah. And like, I don't know, I only got my hands on it like daycare centers. They had a little gaming center in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'd have like
I actually
CRT
like
monitors.
Not that long ago, I went to a dentist and I saw they had like a GameCube with like Mario Kart Double Dash and stuff like that, but everything was like bolted to the wall.
Yeah, like McDonald's. Like McDonald's does that. They used to have like 64 controllers, and you'd be playing like Star Wars Pod Racers or F-Zero or whatever they had there with these.
Damn it! Now I want to go play the actual pod racing like arcade game. That was so cool.
Yeah, they were. They were pretty cool, man. Better than the movies.
It's funny though you say that like everyone else has this really cool Sonic story and then you don't. Because mine isn't really that impressive, but it's still like really meaningful to me. I remember I was just like over at my friend's house. I was living in Ohio at the time, and I want to say I was like 5 or 6 or something like that. Because it was like a pretty trendy thing at the time. It had just come out. And this was like back in that time where video games were still just kind of like, you fucking loser. Like you're playing games, wasting your time.
Yeah.
Before people realized, this is actually extremely profitable, like more financially viable than movies and TV and music combined. I was just like hanging out with my friend, and he's like, "Oh, do you want to play a game?" And I was like, "Sure." And we just went down to his basement. It was like one of those just shitty basements where everything smelled like mold, and there was just like a lawn chair. There were 2 lawn chairs that we sat down on. And I remember when I was younger, I always wanted to play games where I liked the main character, and it was someone that I could see myself being. I guess I was kind of egocentric as a kid. I don't really know what the psyche was there, but
I
always
most
really
people,
liked.
When they play a game, they want to like project themselves onto the character or find the character interesting, So I think it's everybody.
Like for me, if there's like a girl that you can play, that's fine and everything. But if there was a character that's like a robot or like a like Doom guy where he's got a helmet, you can't tell what he looks like, I could project my character onto him and be like, "That's me. I'm a soldier." And
yeah, I'm totally there with you. Yeah, absolutely.
And like I was hanging out with my friend, and he showed me Sonic 2, and I saw Sonic. And I think as a kid, I was always constantly bombarded with messages of like masculinity and like you gotta be cool. And like I remember I saw Tails and I was like, this is the cutest fucking thing I've ever seen, and I want to play as him. And then I liked it, but I didn't like the fact that Tails could only jump and he's basically just like a palette swap of Sonic. I was like, whatever. And then, no, you know what? Actually, I got my story mixed up. I'd played Sonic 2 back in the day and it was like fine and I liked it. But then my friend called me over to play Sonic 3 with him, and I didn't really know we were going to play Sonic 3, but I was like, yeah, totally. He's like, it's a new game. And I played it, and I played as Tails because, the 2-player co-op, and I saw that Tails could fly. And as soon as that happened, I was like, yes, I love this game. I can fly. I've always wanted to fly in a video game. Like, I think back in the day, this is around the time where I think the only other time you could fly was like Super Mario World, and so but you had to get the running start. So when I found a game where you could just press A twice and you start flying, I was like, yes, I can fly, and I'm an adorable little yellow tail. I'm an adorable little yellow fox with 2 tails. And I just totally fell in love with the character because I thought he was just so cute and so interesting.
I don't mean to cut you off, but like I'm also there right with you. But how did you feel when you found out he could swim in like the most adorable fashion ever? Like he's just dog paddling through the water levels on top of flying.
And he's like struggling so hard, like visually, you can see how much of a hard time he's having. Yeah, I really love when he did that. Cammy, who's not really Cammy, my girlfriend, who's not really much of a gamer from a young age. Her parents would always be like, "Oh, games are for boys, don't touch that." But she always really liked games, so I'm kind of helping her catch up and bridge the gap now. She turned to me when I was playing Sonic, or when she was playing Sonic, and she was like, "Should I be ashamed of the fact that like Sonic Mania is my first Sonic game?" And I was like, like, no, there's never been a better time to start.
Dude, you'd be so surprised how many people this is their first Sonic game. I hosted a streamer friend of mine the other day, and she was playing it, and she said it was her first Sonic experience. She was having some real problems trying to, make it through the game, whereas a lot of it were like reoccurring mechanics from games we had played. So I'm like, oh, this is Easy Street, but it was like, dang, this is a lot of people's first Sonic, and I'm like, and it's a great first Sonic experience. I'm like, this is amazing.
And there's something about Mania that really, really flows really nicely, and I'll get into that once we actually start talking about Mania a little bit more. But Cammy was telling me that it was her first Sonic game, and I was like, it's nothing to be ashamed about. Maybe don't be proud of it. Nothing to be proud of, but
I wouldn't get a shirt and be like, yeah, this is my first one.
Yeah. I just before we did this podcast, I had played the game entirely a few days ago. The day it came out, I beat it, just as Sonic and Tails together. And then when I realized I should probably play as Tails and Knuckles too, just so that you and I could actually we could talk about the full breadth of the game. I showed her, I was like, hey Gammy, look, and I showed her Tails when he was flying, and she's like, oh, that's cute, and I was like, wait for it, and then I waited until he was exhausted and he started falling, and she's like, oh my god.
Yeah, I think that was everyone's reaction. It's like, oh, he's all tuckered out.
Yeah, he hangs out his tongue like a dog that's overheated. It's just this is so goddamn cute. But it's just one of those things where it's it doesn't really, I still think Sonic 3 and Knuckles is the best Sonic game to ever come out ever, and I think that's kind of the consensus among the elitist Sonic fans, is that, the correct opinion is that Sonic 3 and Knuckles.
Yeah, honestly, I think objectively it's probably the best, even though my personal favorite is Sonic 2, just because I can't really justify it. That's just how I feel, but it's
Chemical Plant Zone, man. That's all you gotta say. That justifies all of it. It's so good.
It is. It's so inclusive and fast paced, but I can agree that Sonic 3 and Knuckles is the better full epic experience, you know what I mean? It's just been upgraded.
Yeah, absolutely.
So much.
Sonic 2 was a little rough around the edges at some points, but Sonic 3, and plus it was a fucking save feature. That was one of the best things about Sonic 3, is you just pick it up later.
Oh yeah, man, I was so glad that Mania had that. I was like, what a great idea, man. That is so good.
Yeah, and didn't you have to put in some code at the title screen of 2 to play the other characters or something? I know you had to actually have the expansion thing to play as Knuckles.
Oh yeah, you had to have the Sonic and Knuckles expansion to be able to play Sonic 2 as Knuckles. Otherwise, you could go into the options at the title screen and just switch Sonic or Tails or both or whatever.
I could do a whole podcast about Sonic 3 alone. It's just such a great game.
People are asking for it, Chase.
I was actually going to address that in the beginning, but I'll say it now. I still fucking adore Sonic, and it was one of the things that helped my channel get started. I'll probably come back and do Sonic once I explore more anime, more Pokemon, I'll probably do Resident Evil and Final Fantasy or some other things, but I'm thinking if I can get to 100,000 subscribers, as a landmark sort of celebration, I'll do Sonic 3 and Knuckles, what happened.
Oh, you shouldn't have said that.
No, I'm gonna do it. I needed a long break, because the thing that sucks is that when you do YouTube, the thing that is most motivating is when you're just I want to do a video about this show or this game, and then the whole time you're super into it. You're yeah, I'm having a really good time. But then people will ask you, do this game or review this show, and then you're sitting there fuck, now this is actual work.
Yeah, because it's not what you want to do. You feel like you're being forced to do it. A lot of people that watch YouTube content don't realize that if your heart's not in it or you're not passionate about it, it's not going to be fun, it's not going to be good, it's going to be bad, and you're not going to like it,
Yeah, pretty much. It was one of those things where it's I would really want to do something, and I'd upload it and be hey guys, I hope you like it, and most of the comments would be where's your other video? And so I was starting to feel really claustrophobic and kind of just cornered. I was fuck, I'm the Sonic guy now. And it's not that I dislike making videos about Sonic. I think it's a really great series for the most part, despite its some of its shortcomings. But it was one of those things where it's just the more people started to hear about me, and I was growing pretty quickly. Some other YouTubers in the scene who were just oh, that's the Sonic guy. You could see they didn't really take me seriously. They were kind of oh yeah, real fucking easy way to get fame, dude. That's they looked at me it was one notch below My Little Pony YouTube content. Like that's what it felt like.
Yeah,
and
I mean, totally understand where you're coming from. I'll probably more than anybody, I totally know how you feel. But I'll dwell on that later. But like, you know,
and not to throw shade at people who like My Little Pony. I really don't care. I'm not going to judge you.
It's
but
just how people perceive My Little Pony from an outside perspective is what you're talking about. That's how somebody that would. I get what you mean.
Yeah, kind of. Totally. Like, I know a girl who's like a really, really talented singer. She's not actually a very pleasant human being, and she's really hard to work with, not dropping any names. But she got really big by like doing like singing covers of My Little Pony, and she's like huge now. And I worked with her, and she was just like really unpleasant. But I don't really know why I'm bringing that up. I think I just wanted to kind of get that out.
It's the My Little Pony singer.
Yeah, and I kind of looked at her and I was like, oh, I mean, that's kind of genius that you use My Little Pony as a platform to like actually get your audience. Because what a lot of people like, I think Aaron from Game Grumps made a good point. He said if you want to be an artist, start off doing like video game parodies or animations, and then after you have like a sizable fan base, you can do some original work, and then they'll follow because they like you for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that kind of applies to so many different parts and aspects of being a YouTuber. Like, make sure that there's a lot of these young 20-something-year-olds. Like, I wanted to do a video on streaming or like YouTubing tips or things to keep in mind, like health and things like that. But one of the things I want to talk about is like you see these they're like cringe compilations of like these kids that are streaming, and like their parents will come in and they'll be like, get a job, and it's like, oh man, you know, it's like this kid's trying to do something, but but also the parents, right, man, you can't just, hey, I'm gonna do this thing, you know. It's like you have to have some sort of stability first. Do like 5-10 years of shit you don't want to do, or at least get a nest egg so you can take care of yourself.
I'm actually really fucking close to either getting like 2 part-time jobs or a full-time job, because with all of this happening and the, you know, adpocalypse still not really resolving itself, like
times are hard, man. Times are real hard.
I basically make about $300 a month, and that's still more than a lot of people are making, but it's not something you can live off of. So
yeah,
just dropping a hint to anyone in the chat. If you want to give me $1,
put a link on this. Yeah, go ahead and just put a link right there. Hey, Patreon, right here. Check it out.
I'm genuinely fucking broke, and I don't know what I'm gonna do with my career if this doesn't work out. So please give me $1. No, seriously though, if there's a lot of people out there who are in situations where they can, you know, it's fine.
Yeah,
but about the whole Sonic thing, like, and I mean, frankly, I should have just kept doing Sonic, because part of me was self-conscious that I was going into these YouTube circles and these people were looking at me kind of like a fraud, like I got famous, quote-unquote famous, the easy way by doing Sonic content. But then once I actually got to know a lot of them and I realized like who they were, and they were trying to like get to know people who were famous, a lot of them didn't really like me. A lot of them were just, you know, a lot of them approached me like fans, and they, like on Facebook. Yeah, and they were just like, hey man, I really loved your work, and a lot of them were just kind of on their knees, like trying to, you know, get a positive opinion from me. And then I was like, oh, we're buddies. But then as soon as like some drama happened and everyone saw an opportunity to like, you know, bond with other people who are higher up in the community who didn't like me, they're just like, yeah, fuck Chase Face. Yeah. I never liked him the whole time, even though they were like groveling at my feet the first time they met me. So,
dude, I saw that whole thing on Ramble too, and I was just like, jeez, man. I was like, that's the shit I'm afraid of, you know? It's like, it's so easy to get turned on. Like, you don't know who's really on your side, and it's really rough.
Yeah. And I mean, in their defense, I've been, like, in the past on Twitter and everything like that, I've been a bit of a pill. When I was first starting off with Twitter, I would kind of use it as a platform to just complain. If something was upsetting me, or if I felt like my sensibilities were hurt, I would just go on Twitter and I would just subtweet the shit out of people. And I didn't know that subtweeting was a thing. I thought I was just being smart by not tagging people or starting direct fights. But it turns out that people were talking, and they quickly were like, that Chase Face is an asshole. But
it's weird, because like a really good thing that was brought to my attention a while back, I can't remember who brought it up, but anyway, they were saying like, it's different when you have a Twitter account and nobody gives a shit who you are, and you know, you're just a person with an account. But then like when you actually have an audience, like, because you blew up like really fast, and it was like, so you had to like quickly adjust yourself from being like, hey, I'm just a dude on Twitter, to I'm this guy that you know, has an audience and needs to like
a public figure.
That's exactly right. Yeah, just a public figure that's talking to people, and you have to. It's weird how you have to like talk to people differently and stuff. You know, like...
yeah, the really weird paradigm with YouTubers is a lot of them have that, like, hey, I'm Nintendo Guy 937, and I love video games. And then you talk to them in a call, and they're just like, hey, what's going on? And they're like really serious, and they're really anxious, and they're really like, they're very delicate people. Mm-hmm. If I could weave in a piece of advice to any up and coming YouTubers, just stay away from the community. Just don't even try to like get to know people and try to get their approval. Just do your own thing, and if you make good content, they'll come to you. Because the last thing you want is to look like you really want to fit into these people who, frankly, are really polarizing, exclusive people anyway. Like I said, not dropping any names. A lot of them already stalk me and look for opportunities to like make fun of me and like tweet about me to their friends. So it's a weird situation where you got to be the bigger man and like not address them and not give them the attention that they want. But it's like, it's difficult because it's so frustrating. You want to just like, drop the mic and be like, this person did this to me. Like, I have so many logs that if I were to drop them, I could really like ruin a lot of people's reputations.
Man. The backlogs of the is like, hey, I still have the screen caps, bitch. I'll put you on blast. You know?
Just one of those things where it's like I had an ex that I was like really, really close with, and then like, you know, we broke up because we had our differences, and it was like, all right, whatever, and we agreed to both be mature and like move on and stuff. But then she started like shacking up with all of my YouTuber friends, and then they were like, oh, that guy's an asshole. And she's like, yeah, he was. He did this and this and this, and just started lying about things. And I'm just like, oh, all right, cool. That's always nice.
Yeah, there's not really much you can do about it. I think the most important thing, though, is to focus on your content, try to make it good, try to be consistent, because from what I've understood is, I mean, me giving advice is kind of like ass backwards, just because, you know, like, I'm not really successful on YouTube. Like, I kind of blew up on streaming, and I'm trying to do both and transition.
And you're a really damn good streamer. Like, if any of you guys go over to Battle Athlete's like Twitch channel, he's constantly engaging and like talking to his fans and like carrying conversations and listening to what people in the chat want. Like, he's a really entertaining person. And when I was like trying to stream for a little bit, and yeah, I do it on and off kind of infrequently, then I always try to kind of learn from Cliff. I'm like, oh, that's actually a really good idea. He actually, Cliff here helped me set up like my whole streaming interface and like what plugins to use and
I forgot we did that. We totally did. We took like an afternoon to be like, all right, we're gonna get you completely set up. And it's gonna be great.
It was like 8 hours you helped me, and that's when I realized I was like, Cliff is one of those ride or die friends. I have to make it up to him somehow.
I just like helping people. You know what's weird is that I actually like it when people ask me for help. You know, as long as they're helping themselves, dude. There's too many people that'll come to me and they'll be like, hey man, I want to stream. I'm like, all right, sweet. So like, what kind of settings do you have? He's like, no, like what program do I need? And I'm like, you hadn't done anything? Like, yeah, tell me, like,
yeah, just
hold my hand through the whole thing. I'm like, whoa, like, I'm all for helping you with settings and getting you set up with alerts and etiquette and things like that, but damn, man, like,
at least, you're like, shit, this is way more than I expected.
Yeah, like, even then, like, I still help. I'd be like, all right, you're probably gonna want to do this. I feel like you gotta put a disclaimer. It's like, all right, if you go to Battle Athlete stream, you don't have a good time, Jace Face is not responsible for any opinion resulting from Battle Athlete stream. Thank you.
Yeah, honestly though, if you guys want to check out Battle Athlete on Twitch, like, check him out. He's really entertaining, and you stream like, if not every day, like every other day. Like, you're really, really frequent with it.
Well, I was definitely more frequent with it before. But I've been trying to transition to where I'm making more YouTube content because things have kind of gotten stagnant, you know? A lot of people are kind of not sure what platform they're being on. So I'm trying to put out more content a week, like video content, and then stream once that content's out throughout the week, like through the weekend. So
it's actually a really good idea.
Yeah, trying to balance both, dude. But dude, it is so hard because a lot of people don't realize editing YouTube videos and like streaming are two completely different versions of yourself. Editing is very reclusive, creative process where you're just kind of like in the lab, just kind of like editing things together, recording things, and like putting it together, and it's all like, you know, a reclusive thing. And then when you're streaming, you're outgoing, you're talking,
yeah, they're polar opposites.
Yeah.
It's interesting you say that because I actually never really thought about it like that. Like, when you're editing, you can just be completely just in your underwear, like drinking a beer, and you're just like, I just don't want anyone to talk to me. I'm in my zone right now. And then as soon as you're streaming, you're just like, hey everybody, what's going on? Thank you so much for subscribing. And you know, it's just like, you got to be so high energy because that's what, at least all the top streamers I've seen, they tend to be very, very on top of it.
It's very hard to maintain that positivity too, but namely it's like you're sitting there, it's like, is this the right timing for this audio clip? When should this clip change to this clip? Is this the right frame for this? And is that the right image? Is that too much of this? Is that joke not funny? Should I cut this out?
Like, most of the time, you know, I have a really hard time lying. Like, I'm just honest to a fault. A lot of people, when I was young and I was in school, my parents would get like reports from my teachers where they'd be like, yeah, he's very honest. Like usually would get me in trouble or something. And so it's one of those things where I'll try to stream and they'll be like, yeah, let's have a good time. And then someone will ask me a question that just like puts me in a mood and I'm just like, oh yeah, that reminds me of this one thing that pisses me off. And then I'll just like get all like down in the dumps. But Cliff is really good about like, if he'll say something kind of, if he'll like get on a touchy subject or something that irritates him, he like bounces right back and he's like, anyway, thanks for the donation or whatever. And like that's something that I'm really bad at. Like I stay in a mood for a while after I start it.
I think that's just a skill you get from streaming. Like I've been streaming for like 3 going on 4 years in April of 2018, and it's just like there's been some like humdinger trolls and just like people come in catch you on the wrong day and you reflect, you're like, man, that really made me look like an asshole, like, yeah. And it's just, I don't know, like when you're pretty much forced to interact with your audience constantly, so you can imagine what that would be like. Could you imagine just every day, like when you're trying to do it full time and you're streaming like 40 plus hours a week interacting with people, and even if you're not in the mood, having a lot of people come in and ask you the same damn question over and over again, and you're just like,
yeah. And that's the other thing too, is like I get impatient with people very quickly. And so if someone, like there's this one person who was like, who came to one of my streams on YouTube, and they kept asking me like, what game is this? What game is this? And I think after a while I was just like, it's in the title, dude. Like why, why do I need to handhold you here? But then you shouldn't be mean to the people who are watching your stream. So
yeah,
I'm just like,
and also sometimes you don't think you think they should see it, but like on mobile for the longest time, they couldn't see the title and they couldn't see the game. So like when I was first streaming, they'd be like, what game is this? I'd be like, it's in... read, dumbass. And then they'd be like, I'm on mobile. I'm like, oh shit, I'm a prick, like, oh shit, sorry man.
I always like to my friend, I should say acquaintance because we don't really talk very often, but I'm acquainted with Oni, Chris O'Neill, and one of the things that I really like that he does
hilarious, but he's a huge fan of that guy.
Fucking so funny. Yeah, Cammy and I every morning we wake up, we go upstairs and we just like start our day with Oni plays. It's so fun. But He likes to, he likes to be kind of passive aggressive. If someone's irritating him, he'll be like, what are you talking about, you big dummy? Like not actively being like, fuck you, just being like, you silly Billy, it's right in the fucking name or whatever.
Yeah, a very clever way, like to just not come off looking like a prick, but still being hey, come on, use your brain, like.
By the way, just in case it comes off like I'm humble bragging or whatever, I met Oni at MagFest one year. I think it was MagFest 2016 or something like that, and he was just really nice. Like we had a little conversation. We talked about politics for a little bit. I don't know why I opened with politics, but then he was just like, he just said to me in his Chris voice, he's like, hey man, you're really cool. What's your Twitter? And then like the next day I woke up, like I woke up in this hotel surrounded by all my friends after a night of partying, and I just saw like a tweet from him, and he just said, he was like, dude, your videos are exactly what I've been looking for. Really good shit. And I was just like, because like I've been following Oni since like, when he first got popular. And so, but I do want to, the reason I bring this up is I want to clarify and say that like, we've only talked a few times, so to call him a friend would be very disingenuous, but he's really, I can safely say he's one of the fucking nicest people I've ever met. Like like if you leave a comment on his Facebook post or something, he will like it. Like even if you're probably being really unfunny, he'll like it just to be like, oh, I don't want him to feel invalidated. Like he's so considerate.
Yeah, that feeling of validation from somebody you look up to, man, like, I don't know what that's like, but
Like there's another big YouTuber named Suko G, and he does like those kazoo covers, and he's a really great singer and musician. And I was talking to him, like I met him at MagFest, and he had heard of me. He's like, oh Sonic, what happened? And blah blah blah. That's like my favorite series. It's really good. And I was like, thank you, dude. And we started to get to know each other. And I'll be honest, like, and I told him this, like, at least I think I told him the first time I ever like saw him on YouTube, I saw he did the kazoo stuff, and I was like, oh, that's cute, but it's kind of a gimmick, whatever. And I kind of wrote him off. But then once I got to know him, it was like this Suko G guy is one of the sweetest people I've ever met. Him and like Epic Game Music are like some of the nicest people I've ever met. But anyway, I'm gonna stop blowing these other people on stream. I just wanted to say to other people, if you like Suko G or Epic Game Music or Oni NG, you can have the comfort of knowing that they're not these like douchebags behind the scene. They're like really sweet people.
Yeah, it's because they're real people. They don't bother like being fake with people, But like,
yeah,
they
exactly.
still consider people as people, but they're not like fake. So I think that really helps them like be themselves. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and I'm sure they've had like run-ins with people, and there's been drama, and people have been like, oh, he's an asshole, don't listen to him. But like, they seemingly, if they had that, they seemingly learn from it, and they're just nice to everyone now. which is kind of what I do. Like, if I ever had any skirmishes in the past, or like I had a bad run-in with a fan and they ended up blocking me, I'm just like, oh, just don't do that again. Because people with YouTubers, they're very critical, because to them, we're not even people. A lot of it's just like, you're just an entertainer. And so I've had people 1 minute be like, you're so nice, I love your videos, and then the moment that I retweet something they don't agree with, I'm just dead to them. And it's really odd.
Yeah,
but,
that's just the nature of the beast. It kind of works the same way with streaming as well.
Yeah, just having an audience in general, they do kind of, I don't want to use the word objectify, but that's the closest thing I can think of, is they kind of just view you as like, you are my fun machine. That sounds a lot more perverted than I want it to sound.
Fun machine?
Fun machine, yeah. I'm sure a few manufacturers out there are going to steal that name now.
What kind of batteries you taking there, Fun Machine?
D's. Only the greatest power.
Let it be known that Chase Face the Fun Machine takes D's.
I'll make you feel good all night. Anyway, let's get off that topic.
Yeah, probably for the best.
I had to turn off my air conditioning for this because it messes with my audio quality, and there's a lot more like just a lot of noise going on in the background. And so having just blushed just now from that weird, embarrassing topic, I'm also just sweating like crazy here. So, but anyway, let's talk about our favorite and least favorite Sonic games. We're already like a half hour-ish.
Oh yeah, we kind of derailed there for a second.
Hey man, I mean, like I say, every podcast, it's called Ramble for a reason. So I have the little annotation in the comments section for people that don't care.
We could ramble about YouTube streaming, networking, communities forever.
Yeah, every time we talk, we're like, oh yeah, I just have like a 5-minute question. 2 hours later.
I know. We could start the conversation with anything, and it'll end up at just us talking about like communities.
Yeah. Because you and I are both like, we try to be nice to people, but we're also kind of sensitive, and we've been screwed over by people in the past who try to look really nice, and then you get to know them, and it's like, oh, you're actually a sociopath.
Yeah.
But then everyone else looks at them, and they're like, oh my god, they're so nice, and I really like their content. It's like, yeah, but they're literally a sociopath that doesn't care about their fans, and it's just like a really weird, uncomfortable feeling. Because if you call them out or like try to do something about it, then their fans are going to be like, no, he's great, fuck you.
Yeah, and there's not really anything to gain by doing that. It just makes waves.
The thought always crosses my mind, like, not to dip back into the whole YouTube drone thing, but every now and then I just think to myself, I'm like, oh, what if I approach these people, or what if I apologize? And then I remember the last time I tried to do that, and they're just like, no, fuck you. And I'm like, oh, all right, good talking, grown adults who vote and drive a vehicle. That's
and
how your
go
judgment
defend
works.
Their country. But you know what's worse than those communities? Sonic 06. And that's how
I was originally talking about the whole community thing because I was trying to say that I shouldn't really care about their judgment because they clearly are very sensitive people anyway. And so I probably should have just kept doing Sonic and not really care about how it made me look. But the other reason was just because...
I didn't want to interrupt you earlier when you were bringing that up about how, like, using Sonic to shill. And the thing is I don't really think that's something that you could... like, blame you for. Like you were saying, like, people are like, oh, he's just shilling with the Sonic videos. People shill with Sonic videos and they don't do well because their videos are terrible. It's like, your videos were good and that's why people liked them. The fact that they were Sonic just made them a little bit more clickable, relatable, more known for more people, but it was because the content was good that mattered. You know what I mean? Like,
I think it's the topic of Sonic that made them click, and then when they like see the personality or hear the content, they're
that's
like,
how
oh yeah,
I found
really like
you.
what this
I
guy's
found you
about.
through that thumbnail, and I saw this like drawn specifically, obviously for that thumbnail of you with like all the different Sonics looking at you. I'm like, oh, that's an interesting thumbnail. And it's like, what happened to Sonic? I'm like, I don't know, man. Tell me.
Dude, I think so many people thought that was going to be like this whole all-encompassing retrospective, because I got a lot of comments saying, well, what did happen? I'm like, motherfucker, it says part 1. Total Biscuit noticed my video and liked it and shared it, and I was like, what the fuck?
That was my first thought, too. I thought it was going to be all-inclusive, but I actually enjoy, like, I didn't notice till obviously near the end of the video. I'm like, oh, this is all going to be, like, one thing, but I liked that you were so analytical about every single aspect of every level leading up. I'm like, oh, this is going to be an amazing series. Like, I was like, holy shit, like the music, stages. You have a much more impressive vocabulary than I do, so when you actually, talk about things like that, I'm just kind of like, man, that's a big word. He sounds super smart. I like his voice.
Dude, honestly, the only reason why like I have an expansive vocabulary is because I just played so many RPGs growing up, and like, games that aren't typical, like, the action and guns and racing. Like, I like to play the more intellectual games. And so I guess that's why I tested at a 12th grade level when I was in 4th grade for English. That's what my teacher said anyway, so I don't fucking know. But yeah, that whole thing was crazy. Like, I do have Sonic to thank for my channel being as big as it is. But the thing that I think a lot of people understand is that Sonic fans are like the most sensitive, defensive, like at least the hardcore ones. You know what I mean? There are plenty of Sonic fans out there.
It's such a 50-50 split, man. The split is just like everybody on both sides, and you're in the middle of it.
It honestly feels to me like there's a lot of projection going on in the Sonic community, because there are people who think that, you know, the first series of like 2D platformers were the best and nothing's ever going to top it. And then there are people who think a little bit naively that Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 are like the most amazing games on the planet. There's literally nothing wrong with them. And I thought that when I was younger until I actually like replayed them, and I was like, yeah, these are glitchy as hell sometimes. But like, I think more than anything, people will, I'll give you an example. I was talking about, like I tweeted out with Sonic Mania, I was like, oh, Sonic Mania like actually makes it cool to play Sonic again and to be a Sonic fan after the, you know, the last 10 years of kind of mixed bag of games. And then someone was like, if someone doesn't follow me and they disagree with me, I'm way more likely to just go in on them. But if they follow me, I'm like, oh, they're a fan. I'm gonna be, you know, really polite. But if it's just some rando that found me in a tag, I'm gonna be like, what the fuck are you talking about? And so this person was just like, more like the last 5 years. And I was like, you do realize I'm including Sonic 06 into that factor, right? And they just like deflected and dodged the question. And this is one of those things where I was just like, I mean, I think actually, you know, we kind of conclude the conversation pretty amicably, but it was one of those things where I was just like, here we fucking go again. I'm expressing an opinion about Sonic and someone is upset about it. I mean, I guess that's kind of how any game fandom will work, but it's one of those things where it's like, Undertale, Sonic. It's like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Well, now even Dream Daddy, I suppose, you know?
Ugh, Dream Daddy. I'm not even gonna get
let's
started
not go
on
into
Dream
that.
Daddy.
Whatever. Did you see, I actually made a video on that Dream Daddy situation and kind of blew up with like
I saw you posted it, but I didn't actually watch it. All I know is that I'm a really big fan of Ding Dong from, you know, Oni Plays.
Right, yeah.
And he's like he's another really good streamer, where he'll just like go hardcore and like speed run games and give himself these ridiculous challenges. And
yeah, he's been playing Dead Rising a lot lately, right?
Yeah, I fucking love Dead Rising. It's such a great game. So to see him playing and teaching me all these tricks, I'm like, oh, that's nuts. And it's one of those things where, like, I only heard about Dream Daddy through him, and he was just like, it's not really it doesn't really seem like a great idea. The game's not even out, and they're selling merch. And then he was like, oh yeah, it's really great comedy. You put dad at the end of a joke, and oh, it's so hilarious. And I just love how like cynical he is, because I'm just there like, yeah, that is actually a pretty fucking tired joke. And then when it came out, I saw what it looked like, and I was like, this is pretty polished, but it's definitely not a game I would play.
It's got some great nods to the, like, it's obviously not a game for me personally, but you know, my girlfriend Janelle, she's been playing it like crazy, and
yeah,
like delving into the secret ending of like that deals with a cult and all this other stuff.
I heard about that.
Yeah, it's really interesting and stuff. But yeah, the fandom pretty much ruined it, and I decided to do a video of it. And because it's so controversial, it got a lot of views, and it's been getting me some subs and a lot of comments.
I'll have to check that out. I'll go ahead and put a card right here in the podcast. If any of you guys are using this as just audio and not looking at the screen, go ahead and look at the screen. You'll see a card in the upper right corner for Cliff's Dream Daddy video, so check that out. I'm gonna check it out after this because I totally forgot that you made it.
I was actually really scared. I don't mean to like go off on a
I mean, after that one girl made what, like Dream Mama or whatever, and she got like harassed.
That's exactly what the video was about, actually. And I did.
Some fandoms just need to chill the fuck out, dude.
Oh, for real, man. Like
a lot of these people who think that they're like doing the, you know, and not to get into the whole social justice, but like there's some people who they have really good intentions and they go in and they just approach it with such vehement hatred and like, exactly. I'm assuming that these are the things that you're about and that you're a terrible person because of it, so I'm just gonna treat you like subhuman. And it's just like, where's the love, dude? Like, we can all come to a consensus. There's somewhere, none. You know?
It's so sad. Like, I took
not in fandoms.
Yeah, not in fandoms, man. Like, I took screenshots and used them and everything like that. And the thing, and this is like my first time where I put my opinion out on something like that, and I was really scared. Like, I was halfway through editing it, and I called Janelle, and I was like, yeah, I'm editing it, and I was like, I don't think I should post this. And she's like, what? Well, is it really that bad? And there was some parts that I cut out that obviously I'm not going to talk about here, but I made some comparisons. I was like, ooh, those are some hot buttons. You know what? Let's just chop that off. Let's chop that out. And I just like re-recorded like the last half of it. And I was like, all right, I feel a lot better about this now, because I went in a little too hard at the end. I'm like, that's not playful anymore.
Yeah.
And,
There's a lot of people
scared,
who will
man,
just
putting your opinion out there.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I find more than anything, people these days are really concerned with language. Like, you can say something, but depending on how you word it. Like, in my Final Fantasy 15 video, for example, I made a joke where is it Gladio? Yeah, Gladiolus, like the big, like, hyper-masculine character. He's like, he puts down Noctis, the main character, all the time, and is constantly just like, you're a pussy, you're fucking weak. And so in the context of the video, I jokingly said that, like, Gladiolus will occasionally come around and tell Prompto to stop being such a little faggot.
I remember that part.
And you know, a lot of people were like, oh, I'd expect you to use that word. And I'm like, yeah, I normally don't. But it was one of those things where I felt like it illustrated the joke really well. But there were like at least 20 people that were like, wow, that's a slur. That's really fucked up. Unsubscribed. And I'm just like, all right, I'm not going to censor a joke.
I think I remember you telling me that you used that joke because you kind of wanted to test the waters to see how people would react if you used it, not even in a hateful term, but just like using the word just to see what would happen.
See how many of my subscribers would get like miffed about it. It turns out it's probably like less than 2%, but I don't think I'll jump to use any like controversial terms. I mean, like when I'm with friends, we'll call each other the worst things imaginable because we know that we love each other and we're just fucking around.
You have
trying to get a rise
that
out
mutual
of each other.
respect, but
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're pretty much iDubbbz now. Yeah, you're pretty much iDubbbz.
Oh god, Tana Mongoose gonna come for me.
Jay's face was so scary.
But anyway, yeah, Cliff is kind of one of those guys where if there's some community drama, and trust me, you don't hear about it, but every community is shitty with shitty people and a lot of petty bullshit. If there's ever anything that's just annoying or frustrating to me, or like I see a really slimy person getting ahead through underhanded means, I'm just like, this fucking guy. And then Cliff's like, yep, that's how it is. He's like the guy I confide in whenever like whenever I'm just frustrated with the state of YouTube or other YouTubers.
Yeah, but even then, I don't have the balls to actually like usually post it on Twitter because I don't like making waves or getting into arguments most of the time. I just don't think it paints me in a really pleasant light whenever you get into like Twitter arguments or whatever. But I'll totally like slide into Chase's DMs and be like, man, you believe this shit?
It's all about being tactful. You just gotta don't approach it at all. But anyway, I had on my script here to just talk about like least favorite Sonic game. I would say my favorite Sonic game, or at least one of them, I mentioned earlier Sonic 3 and Knuckles, but I think Sonic Adventure 2 is one of my favorites just for the general replayability. Because, mostly the Chow raising and the RPG elements of that. But I think in terms of just best overall game, definitely Sonic 3 and Knuckles. I really love Sonic Adventure 1 for the soundtrack and for the fact that you can play all these different characters at your will and they all have kind of their own different cutscenes with different dialogue. Like, I always thought that was really cool. But whenever people criticize the Adventure series, I'm like, no, absolutely. Like, they're very flawed, but I wouldn't be one of those people that's so hyperbolic and they're like, it's the fucking worst 3D game in the world.
Yeah, that's really interesting because, like, I'm really glad we're kind of, like, on the opposite side of the fence because I like having dialogue with people that have a different idea than what I do so I can kind of understand their perspective. But like Sonic Adventure 2, like a lot of people have really come to love, and they kind of lump Adventure 1 and 2 together, and they're like extremely different games. Like like I love Adventure 1. I got that like on my birthday because it came out around the same time, and I just played the shit out of Sonic Adventure. Like I did 100% run multiple times. I love the levels. I loved that Tails was more or less a rehash of Sonic's levels, but anyway, like Sonic,
I just like that Tails levels were all just like, I'm insufficient. I need to catch up with Sonic, and like he is my, my idol. Like I like that even his song kind of reflected that. Yeah, like I actually liked that they were pretty much rehashes of Sonic levels because Sonic's levels were fucking good. That's like, I don't mind running through Sonic 2 with Tails just because it's just a different, it's like wearing a new costume or like a new skin. Even though his like hitbox is different and all this stuff. But Sonic Adventure 2 though, man, like I was going back and playing that and I started having flashbacks when I was first playing it. Dude, I was getting pissed off at Sonic Adventure 2. Like, I hated that it made me play characters I didn't want to play. Like in Adventure 1, I choose Sonic, boom, all Sonic levels. That's what I'm in the mood for. I'm prepared for it. But you can't go from fucking City Escape to like Tails in a mech. Like, what the fuck? Like, I don't want to be Tails in a mech, dude. Because then and like even then, I liked the bit in Sonic Adventure 1 where you played as Big. Like, obviously it wasn't great, but it was charming and it was its own thing. And I thought Big was a funny character.
Yeah, it was pretty much Sega Bass Fishing, and it was cool when you're ready to play Sega Bass Fishing. When the game starts telling me like who I'm gonna play and what game mode I'm gonna play, that's where it kind of started taking the piss. Because like I'm Sonic and I'm running through these fast-paced levels. I'm like, holy shit, these Sonic levels are amazing. They're like the thing that originally made me think that I just loved Adventure 2. But when it's followed up by forcing me to be Tails in this like shitty platforming mech, and then Knuckles running around trying to find like emeralds and shit, I'm like, dude, I just want to be Sonic again. And it's like nothing makes a game shitty to you more than when you're playing a mode that you don't, or like a character, or like a game that you pretty much don't want to play, because they're pretty much
AKA the werehog.
Exactly. Half of that
That's pretty
game.
much the pinnacle.
Oh my god, half that game was amazing, and then the other half, you're fucking One Piece eating gummy fruit werewolf, throwing out punches and doing shitty platform sections like it's like a crappy Tomb Raider game or something.
I actually thought it was really funny because the first time I ever played that game, it was the demo, and I was visiting my one of my exes, who I actually see fairly often now. She's still a good friend who lives here in Texas, and you're actually in Texas too.
Indeed,
so
the southern variety.
we definitely gotta hang out sometime, even though you're like 5 hours away from me.
One of these fucking days when I have a house, but I digress. When I have
But
a
it was
place
like-
to live, Chase, for sure. You can come down and
Dude.
meet me under the bridge.
It'd be amazing if you do your streams on
Hey
a
man, what's your
fucking bridge.
address? And I'm like,
Dude,
the
your
freeway.
acoustics
And you're
are really
like,
bad.
where? Do I hit the U-turn? Or yeah, hit the U-turn and park.
You'll see me. You'll smell me rather.
Yeah. It's got, man, I got a CRT monitor with the extension cable. I'm getting electricity from McDonald's in the street. Just play some Sonic 2.
Hold on, here comes the storm. Fucking starts raining. Gotta cancel the stream, guys.
Quick, get in the cardboard box.
I sound like like an oil tycoon. Here's gold. Anyway.
Chase in the box.
What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, the funny thing is, I really liked all the characters in 2. Like, I thought it was interesting that they switched up the combat. It never really occurred to me that like someone wouldn't want to play it at that moment, but I viewed it as, if I want to do a speed run, I'll play a treasure hunting stage. If I want to just play the level and be acrobatic and bouncy, I'll play like one of the Sonic, like one of the speed levels. But then if I want to get Chaos Drives to raise my Chao, and I want to be really fucking specific, I'm looking for only yellow or only purple Chaos Drives, because I want to create like a Knight's Chao, or like something with really specific stats. Then you can be Eggman or Tails, and you go in and you kill all the enemies, and you see the Chaos Drives floating down, and you can just walk over and pluck it and be like, I want that. So to me, everything was justifiable because it was all leading into the real end game, which was Chao breeding and Chao raising, because that shit is really complex. Like, you can do so many different kinds of breeding, and depending on if you use like a special white egg or like a blue egg, you can make him look just like Sonic. I just thought that was really cool, because I was one of those weirdos when I was a kid where I would like make Sonic fan fiction. You fucking heard it here first, folks. I used to actually make Sonic fan fiction, and I actually used to Sonic and Yu-Gi-Oh fanfiction, not together, mind you, separate.
Don't feel bad, man. I did my own Sonic comic book when I was a kid. I still have it somewhere too. I think it's in storage or something.
Like, I thought unironically, and even now a little bit still, I always thought Shadow looked really cool. Like, I get it, he's like this edgelord, like,
I like his hover skates, man. He's a cool design.
He had cool hover skates. I really liked the red streak through his hair, because I didn't know anything about like graphic design or character design or anything, so I just saw a character that had black and red, and I was like, I like those colors together. That's cool. Black like night, red like blood. Angst. I like it.
It's so angsty, but done right.
And like, yeah, like I liked that instead of his spines just going all the way back like Sonic's, they actually went off to the side and kind of bent at the ends. I thought that was a really cool design. I was like, this character actually looks interesting. And like, oh, he's got a dark past. And I was like, oh, I like angst. And just, But I get why people love ripping on him,
caught
but
me at the
I just
right
have
time,
that.
Shadow. I was a teenager just looking for some angst.
Yeah, exactly. It was one of those things where I was just like, I get why people rip on him now, but I still think that I still have that nostalgia where I'm like, Shadow was really fucking cool to me as a kid. They actually had this thing. There was like the Sonic Adventure website. Any of you guys in the watching this video, leave a comment. Let me know. Did any of you guys go to like the Sonic Adventure 2 chat rooms? One of your avatars could be a neutral Chao, an angel Chao, or a dark Chao. And I used to go in there all the time and roleplay as like a lonely dark Chao, and I try to make friends. And it was like really, it's dumb now, but like I thought it was really fun back in the day, because that was back when like chat room roleplays were like a big thing. And it was just something that I've always been like really, it's always something I've been really nostalgic about. It's like, oh, I remember the Chao chat rooms, or the Chao Center, I think they called it.
Yeah, where we could like take them to school and other things. Like, they really, really expanded on the Chao aspect of the Adventure series. The only thing that sucked is that me and my friends, we kind of like got most of that Chao fun out of our system with the first game, which really sucks, because the first Chao system wasn't nearly as in depth or as interesting or expanded as
it was
in
really
Adventure
rough around
2.
the edges, yeah.
Yeah, but like we took that shit super seriously. It was like me and like 2 or 3 other friends or something like that. We had our VMUs. We'd go to school and we'd be training and stuff, and like then we'd have them racing and things. And I remember I won the first 1 or 2 times or something like that. And I guess I talked so much shit that one of my friends just like got full stats. It was like 99999 on everything, and he just beat my ass. I'm like, well, that just fucking, you know, ruined the whole Chow experience, you know?
It's funny how Chow could actually be kind of like a hardcore thing if you were really invested into it, because I love back in the day where you could actually bring them on your VMU back when it was a Dreamcast thing, played little mini games with them, bring them over to a friend. I think you could link them up and they could interact with each other. I thought virtual pets were so fucking cool when I was younger.
Yeah, same here, man. I was all about those virtual pets and like Chows and stuff.
Were so cool. I love those.
Yeah, that was such a smart idea too, like including like Chows and the VMUs, taking them with you.
I
mean, that's pretty much
the
what I did.
VMU. Like I still remember like Power Stone had like mini games for the VMU, and I just like how it fit into the
screen
controller.
On your controller, and
yeah, I just loved that it had a little screen. Like it was so cool.
The only downside of the VMU was how much memory that those things held. I had like 8 fucking VMUs for like my Dreamcast collection. I'm like, shit, and I was still having to delete stuff.
I need to buy a VMU and hopefully it won't be too beat up, because I would like to go back and do like a, if you know, when I eventually do continue the Sonic series, like I'm gonna want to buy Sonic Adventure for the Dreamcast, a Sega like Pro Bass fishing controller, and I'm gonna want to show people this was the idea. You would use your fishing controller to play with Big, and it was cool. It was interesting.
You know,
like,
I actually never knew you could do that. I even had
Yeah.
the fishing controller and all that stuff, and I never knew I could play Big with the Sega Bass fishing controller.
I never did any of that. I'd only ever play like the fishing games when it came on like a demo disc or something through a magazine back when that was a fucking thing. And I mean, like, you know, for the record, before people start bickering in the comments, I know that Big's levels are still obnoxious. I'm just saying I think a lot of people don't know that that was the whole idea, was it was like a huge blatant reference. It still is a bit of a blemish on the whole Sonic Adventure experience, but more than anything, dude, I love the music in Sonic Adventure. Like, it's just, there's so much bass line, there's so much funk, there's so many great like melodies and all the like the brass instruments. It's just so fucking good.
But luckily there's people that side with you on like liking Sonic Adventure 2 and the Adventure series. Dude, there's some Sonic games that I just stand alone and no one will just side with me. That's good. Like, I don't know.
That sounds like a good segue. Yeah, like what?
I don't think I've ever told, like, because we were talking about really shitty Sonic games, you know, and I've already said this, like, Sonic 06, like, I think is like the worst, like, AAA, not even just Sonic game. I think that's just like the worst AAA release product. I think it's worse than like Superman 64.
I would say it's better than Sonic and the Secret Rings, honestly, because at least Sonic 06 is in HD, barely.
I don't know, man. In a game where you fall through the floor as often as that, and it's inconsistent death and having to start over and shit, at least when you fuck up in a crappy game like Secret Rings or something like that, you know, you're not too far behind, and it's like just bad controls, right? That's just an unfinished game, you know, being released. So it's like, just as a Sonic game, but like...
I really would have liked to see Sonic 06 completed just to see, because like, you know, there are all these like files that aren't accessible that like, you know, you were meant to be able to play. It was supposed to be Sonic Adventure 3, I think, is the consensus.
Clearly, yeah. I think a lot of people don't realize that 06 was pretty much Adventure 3, but...
You know, honestly, if they made if they made Sonic Adventure 3, like actually made it, and then they started to, you know, and they brought back Chow, I think they would really, even if it still had all the problems that plagued the previous 3D Sonics, I feel like people would still really enjoy it, if not just for the Chow. They could just release a standalone Chow-raising game, and I think a lot of people would like it.
They could totally make like an HD downloadable, just simple minigame type thing that you could download as straight up Chows. And
even if they just made it like a phone game, which I don't really want any games to be converted into mobile games, because, you know, Pokemon Go and Fire Emblem Heroes and stuff like that, it's like they're okay, but they clearly cut a fuck ton of corners to make it fit on little screen and to make sure that it's dumbed down enough for the, you know, for moms and little kids and stuff like that. They don't want to make it so high functioning that it's not accessible to the general public. I'm always thinking of things in terms of like the hardcore, because like I kind of identify as that, I guess, with most games. But I think at one point they made an announcement like, oh, you know, the Chow, they're just done. We're not going to do Chow anymore. And I thought to myself, you just made the biggest fucking mistake of your entire career. Like, that was the... They shouldn't have done that. I don't know why. It couldn't have been that hard to make, clearly. It's just, you know, some 3D models and stats.
Yeah, it's very simplistic, but there's such a following for it, you know, it'd be easy to capitalize on. But like with Sonic 06, everybody knows it's bad, right? Like, I think that's the worst Sonic game ever made. But one of the Sonic games that a lot of people really pan and give shit and they just hate that I love and I'll stand by is Sonic R. I don't think I've ever told you that. I love Sonic R. Like,
I don't really care about Sonic R. Like, I don't hate it, but I don't love it. It's just one of those things where I remember seeing it at Best Buy, just sitting on the shelf, and I was like, I kind of want to play that. Like, I looked on the back of the box and I saw you could be Eggman in his cute little ship, and I saw you could be Amy in her little car, and I was like, that's adorable.
You know, they actually did false advertising on the back of that box too. There was
really?
They had screenshots from the Japanese version where you could actually change the time of day and weather. Or actually, I'm not sure if it had weather, but the Japanese version had like the Green Hill Zone. There was like a sunset version, and that was like on the back. And I remember as a kid, like, because I grew up with the game, I was like, holy shit, how do you unlock that? And, you know, I went through 100% files like 200 times. I'm like, maybe if I use Knuckles last, and, you know, just try and...
Yeah, when you're just trying to figure out like the little inner workings.
Right, but I got super into Sonic R, and obviously, like, I'll admit, it's nostalgic because I grew up with it, but it's like...
The soundtrack's honestly not even bad, as much as people like to meme on it. Like,
yeah,
a lot
exactly.
of that soundtrack's
like,
really
they hear
catchy.
the music for Sonic R and they think, oh man, what the fuck, this isn't racing music. And I'm like, alright, you have to think of it like from a different perspective. Like when you hear like, Can You Feel the Sunshine? You have to imagine what that song sounds like without vocals, because they hear the lyrics and they're like, what the fuck is this? Alright, take away, because you can hear that.
That's true.
Take away the lyrics, listen to the music, and tell me it doesn't sound like a Green Hill Zone song, but where they're like, hey, it's a Sega Saturn. We can actually have full music audio quality now. It doesn't have to be 8-bit sounding like on the Genesis. Let's make a Green Hill sounding song, but it's going to be like actual music, and then we'll also put it to vocals. That's exactly what that music sounds like. You got Radical Highway that's supposed to be kind of like some chemical plant sounding thing. You know, it's like each song for each stage is supposed to sound like a Sonic level with vocals to it, and it's actually fucking perfect.
Yeah, like when I think of the melody, it's like boom, 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 or something like that, or it just kind of has like that general bass line.
Yeah, it has that kind of like vibe that goes with a Sonic game, but because we're used to hearing like the chiptune sounding like Genesis Mega Drive like sound chip, when you hear like an actual regular song, you're like, what the fuck? This sounds weird for a racing game, but it makes sense for Sonic. You know, and then they added the vocals.
I think it was just the lyrics in general kind of caught people off guard, because like with Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, when their theme song had lyrics, it's like, you know, you were learning about the character a little bit, and you're like, oh yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, that's like the lyrics are definitely the thing that kick it up into like, what the fuck am I listening to? But you can go to the options to actually turn the vocals off, and that's when I was like, dude, this sounds like Sonic music. But those lyrics are so like, can you feel the sunshine? And you're just like, what?
Does it brighten up your day?
Don't you feel like sometimes...
It's hard to like not say the rest of it, honestly.
Yeah,
like,
that's how good it is. It's catchy as hell, but yeah,
it really
it's like really
is. Like,
cringy.
it just gets in your head. But I did want to say, so we talked about like favorite and least favorite Sonic games, everything like that. I would say my least favorite's probably did I say what my least favorite was earlier? I guess I said Secret Rings, but I think that I don't like Secret Rings.
You said Secret Rings you thought was worse than 06, so I can't imagine it being much worse.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I remember when I was excited for Sonic 06. Yeah, Black Knight was pretty it was passable.
Sonic Storybook series.
I actually remember when I first played Sonic 06. I was like babysitting two of my like neighbors' kids, and they were just sitting on the couch, and I was just like playing Sonic 06. I just bought it and I popped it in. And all the loading screens were like boring, but this was at like the apex of the Xbox 360, so it was like, yeah, everything takes a while to load. It's just kind of how things are now. And this was before Bloodborne and everything. Part of me kind of liked Sonic 06 just because I liked Silver's design and I liked the idea behind his character and like his powers. Obviously, once you actually play as him, it's a whole different story. But I just remember thinking to myself, oh, some of this music's pretty cool. I like the music by like, what, Zebrahead or something like that? I think they did the, In This World, This World.
You know, I actually really liked that music before I even knew it was from 06. I didn't even know it was from 06. And I knew what 06 was, and I had played it, but I had heard the music later. I'm like, oh, this is sweet. I'm going to put this on my MySpace. And
dude, I remember back in the day when people would visit your MySpace and you would just assault them with this fucking super loud, this is my song, I want you to know about me.
This
and it was just like
personality.
Yeah, it's so fucking vain and so dumb.
It's like, and then these girls are like, oh, this guy's cute, and then they click on my MySpace, and then they see a bunch of fucking bouncing anime titty gifs, and they never responded. I don't know what's up with that. That's really weird.
You're fucking lost, dude. Frankly, you're a keeper. I think the funniest thing was that back with the whole MySpace thing, like I would be dating a girl, and because teenage girls moody and not good at communicating, we'd have a fight or whatever. Yeah, I would try to like talk to them. They'd be like, no, it's fine. And then I'd like go to their profile and they'd have some super passive aggressive song playing, clearly aimed at me, and I was like, oh, all right, kind of ruins
subtweeting
MySpace
before subtweeting was a thing.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. But anyway, I think we pretty much got all that out of the way. I will now have the link to this part where we're actually talking about Mania. So for any of you who are listening to this part, we're going to start talking about Sonic Mania now. Like I said, it's called fucking Ramble for a reason. Don't get all butthurt about it.
Oh, I'm already butthurt. My butt hurts. My back hurts and it spread to my butt.
I mean, it is annoying when people go off topic on podcasts, but I feel like with a name like Ramble, they should expect it to just kind of be all over the place, but while still ultimately focusing on the game. But
let's be real, Chase. You could talk about fucking anything. Everyone's here just to listen to your bassy, sexy voice. You could just be like, so I took a shit today and I ran out of toilet paper and I had to go out and get some more. You're like, damn, Chase, tell me more. Like, ooh.
Sometimes I have the most painful bowel movements. Just like do like an audiobook of just that.
I'm like,
I find that my lactose intolerance.
Bowel movements, so much bass in that voice. Tell me more, Chase Face. Subscribe.
I find that my lactose intolerance is becoming a severe digestive problem. This is like really try to gross out everyone. Anyway, but yeah, like I when I was playing Sonic Mania, I actively thought to myself, this is so good, I kind of just want to do a Sonic What Happened on Mania alone and just praise it for every single little detail it gets right. Maybe that day will come at some point, time will tell.
I think it will at some point.
Subscribe on Patreon to increase the chances. I'm just kidding. That's not how that works.
$1 a day, you can support a Chase Face. Start with Chase Faces.
Oh, you know
Texas.
what? We were talking earlier about how we met, and like you had just kind of saw my Sonic video. The really funny thing is, I remember the Battle Athlete had been like tweeting at me for a while, but he seemed really cool, and he seemed like likable, and he had interesting things to say. And then somewhere along the lines, I like started talking to him, or I followed him back. And to keep in mind, Battle Athlete just started as like a quote-unquote fan. Like he was streaming and stuff like that too, but he had no connection in my community. He didn't know any of the people that I knew or whatever.
I was absolutely in the Notice Me Senpai status.
That's so funny because I've had a few, like my friend Orem dude, his name's Justin, but Orem Alexander. Actually, I think Orem Alexander's a different guy. He's like a comic guy that lives around here. Who's friends with my friend Trailer Drake. But my friend Orem, he is actually a really talented programmer, and he's like he's just great at everything related to like software and programming and coding and stuff like that. And at one point I called him and we were starting to talk, and he was just like, dude, you have no idea. I'm actually like, this is like kind of my dream right now that I'm getting to talk to Chase Face. I used to be the biggest fan of you. He showed me his like one of his original like avatars that he used that he was going to use to like brand his channel or whatever, and he was like, oh, I totally ripped off yours. And it was just like really funny. It was one of those moments where I was like, oh shit, this is like kind of significant for you, and it never even occurred to me because I consider you like an equal. So what I was gonna say with all this is, if any of you guys, not even with me, I'll be friends with most people as long as they don't seem like scummy or like two-faced. Exactly.
Networking, using
said it like
you,
the same time.
Shitty people, SJWs.
Yeah, basically. But it's one of those things where like, if you're nice to YouTubers before they get like super gigantic, a lot of us are really receptive of like who we'll talk to. Like I have a friend named Jexoy, for example, Jexoy on Twitter. He's a really good artist. He does really like cute drawings, and he's actually got a lot of talent and potential and stuff. And he was just one of those people that was like, I guess a fan of mine. Maybe I haven't actually checked. I think he started off as a fan of mine, and I liked his work, and I liked how he carried himself. He was very polite, so I just like started following him and talking to him, and now he's just a friend of mine. So if you ever want to be friends or like get closer with some of the YouTubers, first of all, remember that they're a person. Like they're not, I promise you, I'm nowhere near as interesting or exciting or smart as you think I am. I'm actually kind of a huge douchebag as soon as I get off the mic.
No, man, yeah.
And then suddenly you're just like, guys, the real reason I came on this podcast was to fucking call out Chase Face. He's a piece of shit. He wasted my time the other day. I don't like him now.
No, Chase Face is gonna be just kind of like, I'm gonna edit this later. It's not up. This isn't live, bitch. Like, I can cut this.
No one knows about that. You have been extinguished now. Go away.
Oh, shit.
But I think that, yeah, like the whole thing that makes Sonic Mania great, I think the shorter answer would be what is bad about it, which is to say very little. I think the special stages with the red and blue orbs that were taken from Sonic 3, I think those are a little too plentiful. Mm-hmm. I liked how they were in Sonic 3 because I feel like they were a lot more spaced out.
Well, there was only 7 in the original because they were actually used for the emeralds, you know? Now you have...
Yeah, exactly.
What's the total? Is it 40 or something?
Oh god, I don't even know.
It's a lot.
Probably around. I'm not even gonna take a guess because someone's gonna correct me, but it's more than I wanted. Whereas the new Emerald stages in Sonic Mania, I really like them a lot. I just wish that they were a little less specific. I wish you could just run into them like you run into the Sonic 3 special stages. Because the Sonic 3 special stages they're great, but I always end up meeting my demise when I bump into a bumper and it sends me flying backwards into a red orb. Like that happens to me constantly, even when I'm like looking out for it and trying to avoid it. A lot of those levels are just fucking vicious, where you just go in a straight line and you have to jump over 2 red orbs to avoid dying. Like it's brutal. But it's like, I really like all the sprite animations. I like how they brought if you look at Sonic Mania's sprites, a lot of them go back to Sonic 2. A lot of them take the Sonic 2 sprites, at least for Sonic. I don't know about the other characters.
Yeah, because Sonic was his sprite in 3 and Knuckles was a lot more rounded, and I think a lot of people like the more angled version from 1, 2, and CD.
I think in 3 he's just generally like, he kind of is looking more straight, but in Sonic 1 and 2 he's looking right at the camera with these big eyes like, you gonna fucking do something? I'm waiting for you to play my game.
Yeah, he had more attitude like on his face in the other ones, but aside from that, like even his shoes, his spikes, everything is a lot more rounded. He's a lot softer in Sonic and 3. If you like put the sprites up next to each other, it looks better, but it's not as sharp, which is not as cool. I think that's why they did that.
One thing that I'll never really like get used to is just how Knuckles is so much slower than Sonic and Tails. I think he might be along the same speed as Tails, I'm not entirely sure, but I'd put money down betting that, claiming that Knuckles is the slowest, because he clearly just, there's nothing like gliding into the ground and then doing a baseball home plate slide before you realize, oh fuck, I'm not moving at all now.
I thought they all ran at the same speed.
They can. I just think that in terms of their initial speed
like
or acceleration
and getting up to speed. Yeah, I know for
Knuckles
a fact that Knuckles
slowest.
can't jump as high, and that is a bitch.
Yeah, I noticed that when I was playing. I was doing the boss in, I want to say, the Studiopolis zone. It's the one where
you have to jump over the missiles.
No, it's the one where you have to look at me, fucking expert here. Now you're remembering anything. It's the one where like there's the screen telling you what the weather is, and you have to like if you're Sonic, you can just jump up and kill him, and the fight's over. But if you're Knuckles, you have to wait for him to use. You have to wait for like the sunny weather thing to pop up, and then he comes down, and then you can beat him up. But it's one of those things where it's just like, oh yeah, there's clearly an advantage to some of these characters.
Yeah, because on that boss fight with Sonic, you're like, whoa, that's it. But when you're Knuckles, you have to wait for it to
Can we agree, by the way, that I wanted more references to Mean Bean Machine? I really liked that portion where one of the boss battles was just Mean Bean Machine. I thought that was great.
Dude, I streamed that shit live because I had no idea, and I was streaming, and when that thing came up, dude, I made a highlight for it because I was like, holy shit! I was like, no fucking way! I was like, you'll have
to like link me to that highlight because I want to like link it in the podcast too. That sounds amazing.
The thing is like, Mean Bean Machine and Puyo Pop, they play the same. So my first reaction was, holy shit, it's Puyo, and everyone in the chat, no, it's Mean Bean Machine. I'm like, well, what the fuck's the difference, honestly? Like,
see, I think of, because when I originally played it, I didn't play Mean Bean Machine as a kid. I only learned about it when like the Sonic Mega Collection came out, and then I was like, oh, this just looks like a ripoff of Kirby's Avalanche. Like that, because they're all the same fucking game.
Yeah, it really
Kirby's
is.
Avalanche literally has the same exact shaped little blobs that make the same sounds when you. I think it's the same sound anyway.
Yeah, the same sounds, and they even like for the most part look the same.
They pretty much just repackaged Puyo, didn't they?
Yeah, they really did. Yeah, actually, I'm not sure which one came first. Was it Puyo or Mean Bean Machine? I'm not really sure.
I'd be willing to bet that like Puyo came first and they rebranded it as Mean Bean Machine. If we're wrong, let us know in the comments below.
Oh, I'm sure
we'll totally read it.
These dumbasses don't even know that Puyo came first. Bunch of
hey man,
idiots.
we're not even fucking that good at what we do. We're just two guys who were talking, and you chose to listen. This is your fucking choice, dude.
I'm gonna Google.
Don't even get on me.
Hold on, I hack the mainframe and find out.
I was thinking we could probably like be live Googling these things while we talk, but then I'd have to edit out all the keyboards.
Yeah, that shit's not fun though. I don't want to Google nothing. I just want to talk about Sonic. Oh, but yeah, we were talking about the differences between the characters. Like, I definitely noticed that. I think you know that I speedrun Sonic 2, and
yeah. I saw you had like the little checkpoint timer things up the last time you were streaming, and I saw it.
Yeah, I'm pretty much out of practice, so a lot of my times were pretty bad, like, more recently, but, like, getting ready for Sonic Mania, I was like, let's do some Sonic 2 speedruns, maybe with some mods here and there, and just kind of mix it up, and I definitely noticed that, like, Knuckles was a huge game changer because of, like, his jump distance. I noticed it a lot, like, 2-3 years ago when I first started actually trying to run the game, and I was like, all right, let's do Knuckles, it'll probably be easier because he can glide, right? And it'll, like,
and then you realize his glide's really slow, and he doesn't have that much acceleration.
Yeah, and especially in Sonic 2, whenever Knuckles goes into a glide, like, he'll come down immediately. He loses like a huge amount of height.
He really does.
To glide.
It's actually the same way in Adventure, which I'm not sure if that was intentional, but in Adventure, if you glide with Knuckles, he just goes straight, and then he immediately just starts going down.
It's
like
just drops like a huge amount of altitude immediately, then glides.
Yeah.
So like I definitely noticed that there was a difference. I don't think the glide drop was as bad as it was in Mania though.
I don't really think it's that bad in Mania, honestly.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think they did it just for 2 because. I mean, he was already going to break 2. He wasn't meant to be played on Sonic 2, and there was already way too much shit that he could break.
I noticed they changed a few things about Chemical Plant Zone Act 1. Like, there isn't that tower. I don't think, anyway, that there's that tower you can climb and get, like, a Knuckles 1-up, because that was, like, a specific thing they put in 2 for some reason.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Or maybe it was just for Tails, and then, you know, when you play as Knuckles, they swap it out for, like, a Knuckles life. But anyway, truth be told, there's not really a lot you can say about Mania, because everyone's already talking about it, and it's kind of that, like, yeah, okay, we know, everyone's already acknowledged that. But one of the things I really like is every little thing about the game has character and personality and polish. Like, just even the little balls in Studiopolis Zone, you jump on them and they go bwop, and it's just like this Genesis bit crushed sound, and you're like, yeah, I remember playing, you know, Sonic Spin Ball or whatever. Like, I remember those sound effects. Like the fact that they had. I love that they really play up the Sega Saturn sounds too. Like when something's exploding, it's like do 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 do. It's like it's like really sounds retro, and I fucking love that. Like it sounds so good.
Man. It's definitely like the nostalgia for people that are familiar with that era. Like it really takes you back. Like I think a lot of people have already expressed their feelings about how the game made them feel just from the opening animated cutscene, which was so like when I first saw that, dude, my eyes got all watery, man, because not just because it's like, oh, I'm so happy, like this is gonna be a great Sonic game, but it's like that much nostalgia flushes back to you, and it's almost like Sonic Mania was really put into a time capsule, and it was like the Sega Saturn Sonic that we never got. And when you're seeing this, it takes you back to that time, and then you just think of how much of your life has unfolded from that point to this point, and how much has changed, like how some of the life events you've gone through.
Yeah, you're like, I'm a fucking adult now.
Yeah, like all these emotions come flooding to you, you know, like. Dude,
I'll be honest, when like and by the way, I only found out that the game was like out at 11 p.m. when I saw you were playing it, and so I was like, oh shit, like I saw you were streaming it, and I was like, yeah, I know what I'm doing now, and I bought it immediately. It downloaded in like 20 seconds. It was great.
Yeah,
I remember when I started playing it, and all, you know, like I was actually kind of drunk when I was playing it. Otherwise I might have streamed. I didn't want to make an ass out of myself. I was just playing it, and I was like, this is like, because when I get kind of drunk, I get, you know, obnoxious, but also kind of creative, and I see things like very logically. And I was looking at the opening, and it has that whole like. The song sounds really melodic and really jubilant and joyous and fun, but then they have like kind of some of the more, it almost sounds like a little bit dubsteppy. I'm not sure what the genre would be, but it has more of like a percussion sort of focus on it, where the percussion will kind of stop, it'll like pause, and it's I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but if you listen to like that opening of Sonic Mania, you notice that it clearly feels modern because it's inspired by, say, Hyper Potions or James Landino, I think is his name. A lot of these people who do really good music that's either Sonic inspired or they help collaborate with Sega. And I heard that and I thought to myself, yeah, this is a natural modern fit. Like this is what it feels like. You know, not trying to retread the old path and make it sound all like Genesis chiptune-y FM, you know, sound chip or whatever.
Yeah, it's a modernized version of, I think, of what a Sonic song like that would sound like, you know? Like,
yeah.
I could see that being like an updated version of what they would have like on a Sega CD opening or something like that, you know? Like
yeah. I just love the fact that it clearly looks like really old-timey, but, you know, one thing I was really thinking over and over and over as I was playing Mania was the reason why the game is so goddamn good is because you can tell They put in a lot of effort to make it feel good, obviously, and they really made sure it was polished and that everything was good. But more than anything, they weren't trying super hard. They were just letting it be fun. They were letting it be Sonic, and they were letting it breathe and play naturally. And so because of that, it felt like Sonic himself. It felt like, fuck it, what do I care? It's whatever. I'll be fine. It'll be fine. Like, not really stressing the small stuff, not really getting hung up on like, well, what does everyone want? We want to make everyone happy. They're just like, no, we're just gonna make a throwback, and we're gonna do it the best we can because we fucking made it, and you know it's gonna be great. Well, and it has this sense of confidence now when you play it, where you're just like, yeah, I feel like Sonic Team was just hanging out, wearing Hawaiian shirts and sunglasses and smoking cigarettes, just like, fuck it, it'll be a great game. They're gonna love it. Don't worry, we got it.
From the fans, for the fans.
Yeah.
You know what the thing is that I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this. There's a lot of people that I don't think have noticed how much easier Mania is to Sonic 1, 2, 3, and Knuckles. Maybe it's about as hard as Sonic 1, but it's definitely not as hard as Sonic 2 or Sonic 3 and Knuckles. It's a lot easier. The only thing I had a problem with was like the final boss, which I got super salty at. I made a highlight for that too, because I got really, I was like
the final boss, or like the secret final boss?
Not the true final boss, but the one before that, because you'd have to go through.
Which, by the way, don't spoil that for me, because I still haven't gotten all the emeralds. I've only gotten 3 max.
Oh, okay, I'll keep it zipped, because I did a full 7 Chaos Emerald run with Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, and I did all the blue sphere thingies or whatever. But I noticed, I was like, dude, some of these bosses are like super fucking easy, and they're really lenient, which I don't have a problem with. I think it's great, especially with modern gaming, because dude, even as easy as Sonic Mania is compared to the old Sonic games, I don't know if you've seen, there's like been 1 or 2 journalists that have had articles talking about Sonic Mania is fucking impossible. This game's too fucking hard. I'm like, oh,
everyone's
eat
just
a dick.
Everyone's just such a pussy nowadays.
I know, dude.
People want games. Most people want their gameplay experience to just be like, it's kind of hard, but it's designed to actually be really easy. It just feels like it's supposed to be hard, but like, oh no, you're actually really good. And that's why you beat it, because you're actually very talented. But the thing is, like, there's gonna be plenty of people who, you know, like Donkey made that really great video talking about difficulty in games and how like a lot of games benefit from just having a standard normal mode and you can't change it. And I would agree with that. Mm-hmm. And it, you know, really strikes a different balance depending on, like, you know, what genre you're talking about, like Dark Souls or whatever. That'd be weird with an easy mode. I do love that that's become a meme now, comparing everything to Dark Souls. It's just, people have been doing it. Journalists have been doing it for years.
I hate it so much.
Really cliched. You know what's one thing I wanted to talk about, and I was actually really excited to talk about this on this podcast with you. So you know Mario Maker, right? You know those stages where it's just like, don't press a button and you just go through it?
Yeah,
it's like always the top 5 stages.
Or like they just kind of take you to the end.
Yeah, it's basically like that. Sonic Mania has an element of that. That, like, obviously it's still a platformer, it's still momentum based. You can still feel like you have a proficiency in the game and that you understand the map, and so you jump over here, bam, 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 I got the secret thing. That's still there. But there are plenty of situations where I'll be like, I don't know where to go, and I'll just hold right, and then it'll totally work with you, and it'll be like, you want to hold right? All right, cool, no problem. Bam, there's a jump pad there. It sends you into this corkscrew. All right, over there, you're at a checkpoint. Sweet. And it feels like the game is actually kind of, like you said, it feels a lot easier than older games because, and there are a few things to factor into that. Number one is that you have a much bigger screen. It's widescreen now, so you actually have time to respond to things.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I didn't even think about it until like tonight. I was playing it and I was like, oh yeah, it's fucking widescreen. Because it's like, as we were saying earlier, you know, watch a lot of Oni plays and everything like that. And they were playing this one game. It was kind of like Battletoads or something like that, but it was like this older game. And they were playing it and they had less than half a second to respond to obstacles spawning on the right side of the screen. And if you fucked it up at all, you were just done. And they were just playing and they're like, oh, my eyes are gonna start bleeding. Just because they had to react so quickly and it was really, really difficult. And it made me think back to, you know, and as I was focusing on them playing, I thought to myself, yeah, I'm actually trying to put myself in their shoes and I'm trying to like watch and react and, you know, process this in my mind, and it gave me like an actual headache. And so that's the great thing about Sonic Mania is it feels like they've actually tailored it to be, yeah, you can jump around, you can platform, you can explore and do all that stuff, but if you want to just hold in a direction and occasionally press jump, you can get through the game pretty well.
Yeah, but I don't think the difficulty in a lot of the older Sonic games was necessarily from like the level design. I think it was mostly from like bosses and the downside to dying. Like in Sonic 2, if you died on Death Egg Zone, your bitch bitch ass is going all the way back to the beginning. You gotta do that shit again, you know? It's like,
yeah, that was brutal.
Yeah, and you know, it was a really tough fight, actually. You know, like I speedrun it, so I'm like, it's fucking easy, you know, like, but even I
you
still
got all the
like
patterns down.
Yeah, even I still die. Like, you know, oh man, I kind of fucked up that jump, but it's like I wasn't able to beat that till I was like 20 something. You know, like when I was a kid, I just used debug mode and cheated and lied at the lunch table. You know, like
dude, it's so funny.
I beat
like, I
Sonic.
remember,
Yeah, I beat it with no cheat code. Yeah, fucking liar. You know?
like when I was a kid, I loved like Brave Fencer Musashi, and I loved which is like an old PS1 game by Squaresoft. Felt very Final Fantasy. And I loved like Harvest Moon 64, and I loved all these other games, and like Mystical Ninja on the N64, and all those kinds of games. And then I you know, play it as an adult now, and I'm like, this is actually really hard. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I just used Game Shark when I was 9. That's why I liked the game, was because I made it impossible to lose. And it's like, I'm kind of glad that these days, like cheating, you can still cheat with get an action replay or fucking whatever it is now. I think action replay is still, Game Shark certainly isn't around anymore. Because the technology has just gotten so much more, it's such a hassle now. Like I have a friend who's one of those like, oh, I'm really frugal and I don't like waste any money ever. Like I'm really, really critical about what game I'll spend my money on. And he's one of those guys where, you know, he's a great guy. Ryan Doherty, if you're out there listening, I'm exposing you now. He's one of those people that just has like, he bought one of those like flash carts where you know, can pirate all the games and just play it on a chip. And I think they've patched a lot of their 3DSs so that you can't play with those. But I just think nowadays, like to imagine a PS3 action replay or a PS4 or an Xbox One or a Switch action replay, you're just like, get the fuck out of here. That sounds so dumb or fake, you know?
It's also because of achievements is the main reason I think they kind of did away with those. But like GTA 4 had a way around that where they just disabled achievements and stuff. So it's not like it's not impossible you can implement them or whatever. Did you ever look into that game Spark the Electric Jester?
I did a little bit. I didn't actually end up buying it. Actually, I can plug that here too. Here's another card for you motherfuckers. If you want to see Battle Athletes Spark the Electric Jester review, it's actually pretty funny.
The main reason I bring it up is because, you know, we were talking about level design and how you can kind of just hold right, and a lot of the complaints I hear from like people, like modern Sonic fans about classic Sonic is, oh yeah, classic Sonic, you know, hold right, jump and win. Like whenever a level like that has you go to the left instead of going to the right to kind of get around, I don't mean like a quick left. I mean like you venture to the left for a good ways and then whatever, like you find yourself lost. There's fan games of Sonic that have tried to utilize a Sonic stage where you go right and at one point go far to the left and then back to the right. Spark had a level like that and I was stuck on it for like 20 minutes and I was getting super pissed off. And the developer, Lake Feppard, he was in the chat watching me stream his game and I was just like, dude, what the fuck? This is bullshit. I've been looping around for like 20 minutes. This is fucking garbage. You know, I'm getting super pissed off. Eventually, I went far to the left, and then there was like this little hole that like a little nook that I was supposed to like fall through, and then it was like I was back on my way. But like this is some bullshit. I think it's important that Sonic stays going to the right. It's the branching paths going to the right that I think are what make Sonic levels so interesting and give it replay value. You're like, hey, you know, last time I went this way, what if I went this way? And you get to see like a whole new portion of the level. And
yeah, like they have so much more room and so much more exploration that you can really pack so much more into that. And I'm actually glad you brought that up because I was going to comment. Traditionally, like when I think back to old Sonic games, I think go right, jump. You know, sometimes go left and then go right again, like you were saying.
Yeah, like a quick left. You know?
Yeah, and like in Sonic Mania, it switches it up all the time. It's like generally you're going to the right, but then you hop in this thing and now you're going to left, and you know that you're supposed to go left because if you get confused and try to go right, there's a carefully placed bumper right there. It just shoots you right back left.
It lets you know where you're supposed to go. You know,
like Sonic Mania's gameplay basically obliterates the need for like a guide arrow or like any kind of like waypoint system. Obviously, it's absurd to even bring up waypoints or guidance in a Sonic game, but you know what I mean when I say that, right? Like the level corrects you when you start to go the wrong way.
The level design is so good that every ring has a purpose in that game to let you know that you're going the right way, or there may be something over here. Like I think it was in the Completionist review that he just put out today or yesterday.
I still gotta watch that. Gerard's really great.
Yeah, it was really good because he was talking about like how he noticed each ring kind of leads you off to a secret. Like you might see like some like 3 vertical rings above you, and your Knuckles, you climb, follow those 3 rings, boom, there's like a ring box or an extra life up there that you wouldn't have seen without those rings. Like every ring is feels like it's really important to letting know the player where he needs to go and that he's on the right track, and that's good level design. Like that's so perfect. Like it's so well done.
By the way, that reminds me, I was talking about before, like, oh, it's Suko G and all these other people who are really nice. Gerard's another one of those guys that I know personally, and I've met him in person, and he's really nice. Like, the first time I met him, I forget what it was. I think it was after Pro Jared shouted me out back at Penny Arcade or whatever it was. Not that it matters. I'm just trying to remember now, but some convention. He followed me on Twitter and he like tweeted at me. He's like, "Oh, your stuff's really good." And I was like, "Oh, thank you, dude. I'm a big fan." And then when I showed up at, I think it was MagFest, or no, it was SGC here in Texas. Then I showed up and I was with a friend that had all my luggage. I hadn't gotten to my room yet because I was really late. Everyone was already partying without me. And then I came over and I saw Alex Facian, I forget how you say his name, and I saw Gerard. I didn't see him immediately. He came up to me and he looked at me. He said, "Dude," and I looked at him and I was like, What's up? And we both just smiled really warmly, and he walked over to me and just gave me the biggest hug.
Oh my god, dude, you're gonna make me cry.
and then he said to me, this was like right after I put up Sonic 2 Part 1, and he's like, "Did you just put up a Sonic 2 video?" And I was like, "I did." He said, "I was just about to put up my Sonic 2 video." And I just came up to him and I put my fist, like my hand balled up into a fist, into his face, and I was like, "You motherfucker." And he looked at me and he pretended to choke me. He's like, "You son of a bitch." And it was just like really funny.
Oh man, dude, I've never got to meet him. You telling me that story, like me putting myself in your shoes. Oh man, like I'm smiling so big and all teary. I was like, man, what a great fucking huggable guy. Like, God, man.
Dude,
like,
well, I'm still humble bragging. I ended up meeting PBG, like, and he's really nice. Like, you know, he's a lot more political now than he used to be, but as a person, like, he's really sweet to his fans. He's really, really nice, and he's just a kind person.
Yeah, you can totally see it.
Yeah, and like I met him outside of like Jared's Pro Jared at the time was having a panel, and PBG was just like standing there, and all these fans kept coming up to him. "Oh, can I have an autograph? Can I have a picture?" And he was there for like an hour. I left and I came back. He wasn't budged, and there was this huge crowd around him. And eventually, I had to be like, "All right, guys, come on. He's got to, you know, come to Jared's panel." And they were like, "All right." And then I looked at him. I was like, "Do you need like a water or something, dude?" He's like, "No, I'm good." And then he looked at me and he said, "I'm sorry, who are you again?" And I could tell he was just so out of it because he was so drained trying to give back to these fans. And then I sat with him and Dex the Swede at Pro Jared's panel. It was one of those things where I introduced myself. I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm friends with Jared, blah, blah, blah." And it was one of those things where it could sound like I'm just like, "Oh yeah, I'm totally friends with your friend." And he's like, "All right, you're probably lying." And then right at that panel, someone asked him, "How do people get in contact with you?" And he was like, "Oh, just don't. I usually don't respond to messages if people try to get me to check their videos." But there was one guy named Chaseface, and he did it really well. He really wasn't pushy. And then I kind of looked over and I like was thinking to myself, like, now PBG knows that I'm not full of shit. It was kind of one of those like fan moments where it's like, "PBG, I've watched all of your videos and I've like, you know, I've seen them multiple times, including like your Harvest Moon one, because I'm a big Harvest Moon fan."
I think the important thing is when you talk to somebody like that is to not, you know, sound like you're trying.
Just be calm. Yeah.
Just be normal with them, because like,
don't let them know that you've watched all of their videos 7 times on repeat and fallen asleep to several of them. That will make them very uncomfortable. I've done that. I mean, I haven't said that to them, but I've fallen asleep to people's videos.
I think what a lot of people do when they first meet like a YouTuber or somebody they look up to like that is their first thought is, "How can I become this guy's friend?" And that's like the worst thing you can do. It's just
like if any of you guys ever see me at a con, just say, "Oh," like one time when I was at SGC, a bunch of people came up to me and they were just like, "Oh, you're Chaseface, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, what's up?" And they're just like, "Can I get a picture?" And I was like, "Sure." And it was just like, I'm just like, hell yeah, dude. And there was actually one guy named, his username was Carbo Balloon, and he used to hang out when I would stream on Twitch sometimes, I think. And he was always really nice. And I saw him in person, and he was like, "Dude, it's me, Carbo." And I was like, "Dude," I gave him a big hug, and he was like, "Is it cool if I like walk with you guys?" Because we were kind of in our group. And I was like, "Yeah, dude, it's totally fine. We're just kind of wandering." He's like, "Yeah, it's fine." And then later he's like, "I'm not intruding or anything, am I?" And I'm like, No, you're good. I mean, if he hadn't said anything and he'd been one of those people that's just like, "I'm cool to go with Chase anywhere," then I might have been like, this guy's kind of, you know, hanging on. But he was like really respectful about it. And so just be polite, be nice, and most YouTubers, unless they have plans and they're running off somewhere, will be pretty nice to you.
Yeah,
generally
I
speaking,
think
anyway.
A perfect example is when JonTron talked about how he went to like I think you've heard this story too, where he went to a restaurant or something like that, or like a coffee shop, and there was 3 guys there. 2 of them were like, "Oh my god, JonTron," and they just kept on quoting his videos like, and he was like, "Oh, cool." And then he said there was one guy that was like, "Hey man, I'm a big fan of your stuff," and he was like, "Thanks." And he shook his hand. He was like, "That's the only guy I remember." He was like, "I only remember the one guy that wasn't just in my face spewing memes and just being like, ack," you know. He was like, "I just."
That's so funny. Psychic Pebbles actually, Psychic Pebbles from, Sleepy Cabin or friends with Oni or whatever. He actually had a really great similar quote where he was saying that there was this one guy, he was like, the most memorable fan interaction I've ever had was, he was talking with his friends, and someone came up and just shook his hand. He's like, hey man, keep up the good work, love your work. And he just walked away, didn't even wait for him to respond. And he's like, that was the nicest fan interaction I've ever had, because he wasn't hanging out and trying to get more responses or whatever else.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe Psyche Pebbles has different...
and just trying to like weasel their way into your life or something, you know? Or just kind of like... I think that's because then they feel like you want something from them, you want to use them. Even if the only thing you want from them is friendship, you have this aura of, I want something from you, which I think
and there's a lot of people who want more than friendship. There's a lot of people who want whatever they can get from you, and usually for bragging rights to be like, oh yeah, hey guys, I know, Pro Jared, or I know JonTron. It's like they can tell. Like a long time ago, I actually never really talked about this, but a long time ago I used to be friends with Ego Raptor. But I was one of those guys that would brag about knowing him, and he could tell. And eventually,
I think
we
you told
stopped.
Me this story too.
And eventually, we stopped being friends. And there's a lot of people that I've talked to that have the general consensus of like, yeah, Ego Raptor's like really hard to get along with, because if you ever upset him once, he just writes you off like you're dead to him. At least that's what I heard from one of JonTron's artists. I'm not gonna name him, but we were talking at like MagFest, and I was like, yeah, Ego Raptor's not a very nice person. He's like, yeah, I've heard that. And I was like, wait, you've heard that he doesn't like me? He's like, no, I've heard that a lot of people don't have a good running with him. But it was one of those things where like he could tell that I was this immature little like 13-year-old, and I was like, I didn't really treat him like a person. I treated him as like just kind of like a trophy to show off to my friends, and he didn't appreciate that. So ever since then, I've been like, yeah, it's not a good way to act.
He's told stories about those kind of interactions too. There was
he actually mentioned me one time during his Fire Red and Leaf Green playthrough, and it really pissed me off.
Oh shit! Really? What did he say?
I think in the episode it was one where they were like at Cinnabar Island or whatever, if one of you guys wants to find it, but he was like, oh, I used to have all these conversations with this guy, and I would just leave in the middle of the conversation to make a sandwich and come back, and he wouldn't notice. And Dan was there like, that's kind of fucked up, dude. And I could tell Dan was actually like, Jesus, dude, judging you right now. And then this is when I knew Aaron was talking about me. He was like, yeah, and then he did something to piss me off, and I wrote him off. And all the thing I did to piss him off was like, I went and I talked to his friend, and I was like, is Ego Raptor stuck up? Because he doesn't respond to my messages anymore. And then, of course, because I was a dumbass, his friend went and told him. And
damn, man, that would really hurt my feelings.
No, the thing that actually hurt my feelings was, I mean, obviously, at this point, it's kind of considered punching up just because he's never gonna, like, ever think about me or hear anything I say to him. But it's one of those things where he said to me a long time ago, you are one of the only fans that I actually resent. And I was like, Jesus Christ. He actually told me, he's like, you're arrogant, you're rude, you're this and that. And I was just like, fuck, dude, I'm really sorry. And that messed with me for like 2 years.
That would sink, dude.
I was depressed for like 2 years, and I'd message him on and off, all anxious, like, I'm really sorry, I made a bad impression. And at one point, he felt bad for me. He just messaged me like, yo, dude, it's cool. We all make mistakes. He was just like this fucking kid.
Dude, but it's like with me, like I've never got to meet him. My girlfriend got to meet him in San Antonio at a convention and took a picture with him, and she got an autograph for me, which I actually have framed on the wall right in front of me.
That's cool. Yeah, I really do respect, because it's important to tell the difference between liking someone and respecting them. There's a lot of YouTubers that I genuinely dislike as people. I think a lot of them are just really backhanded, but I really respect their work and I really appreciate what they do. Like, for example, I don't really get along with like Eileen Montgomery, but that doesn't matter because she makes really great music and she's an amazing singer. So it's one of those things where I can be like, we're not friends. We've interacted and it hasn't been pleasant, but she makes really, really good work. So like, I can still appreciate them from a distance. You know what I mean?
I'd still like to I'd still love to meet him like sometime and like get to talk to him and stuff. Just because I've like, dude, I've been a fan of his since it was like a different time of my life, you know, like
right.
And like, I mean, he even sketched out Metal Gear Awesome for me. Like that's how old this sketch is. I have it from like way back. So
yeah.
And I don't know, but
no, I mean, back in the day,
I think I accidentally derailed the podcast again.
Like I said, man, Ramble. It's right in the title. But it's one of those things where it's just like, you know, they say don't meet your idols for a reason. And I think a lot of the time it's because the realization that your idol is like a flawed person, or maybe someone that has like a lot of depression or a lot of issues that they're still working through. You think of them as like this amazing visionary, and you get to meet him and you're like, that guy's actually kind of a bum, or, you know, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. Like I don't really go to cons ever anymore, because 80% of the YouTube game review community just doesn't like me and doesn't want to talk to me ever, so I'm just kind of like, why spend money and travel and do all this shit just so I can be like on edge the whole convention? Like, one guy actually, I heard from another guy that this person I pissed off, like, if he sees me at a convention, he said he'd like beat me up. And like, and I'm just thinking to myself, I highly doubt it. But at the same time, I'm just like, that would certainly suck. Remember to go into the YouTube game review community. They will totally accept you with loving open arms, and you will never be ostracized whatsoever. I promise, boys and girls.
You know what's not like the Sonic Mania.
Just make this amazing transition. You know what will never betray you? Sonic Mania.
That's right, Sonic will always be there. Not like the YouTube community or
That's
my dad.
And by the way, if any of my former YouTube friends are listening to this, I just want to say I will totally talk to you and apologize if I ever upset you. The thing that sucks about that whole thing is that, for context, everyone, a few days ago, I told Cliff, yeah, we're gonna record the podcast today, and he's like, all right, and I didn't know he was just like waiting around. I didn't know that I was like wasting his time, and I should have, because I was just being disorganized. But he told me later, he was just like, just so you know, I'm a little irked, I'm a little irritated what you did, and I was like, oh, dude, I'm really sorry, and I immediately made it up to him, and he's like, nah, it's cool, you like forgave me immediately.
Yeah, I thought it was important to be transparent about something that bothered me, because like I had like a day or two to like, you know, work on my next video, edit it, and hopefully get it out before my girlfriend came down to drop off my cat Friday night. So I was like, all right, sweet, well, I'll get some editing done. You're like, hey, let's do a podcast tonight, or today. At first it was today, and you were like, yeah, today. I'm like, all right, sweet, I'll go grab some lunch and we'll do an afternoon thing. And then you're like, oh, well, actually it'll probably be more like 9. I'm like, all right, cool, 9
and I just kept pushing it back.
Yeah,
and then eventually you're like, so is this happening? And sometimes Discord doesn't flash or make a sound effect, so I didn't see that. And you're just like, all right, I guess it's not fucking happening. And the whole point of mentioning that is that usually if you upset someone on YouTube, and it's not just limited to the game review community, although it's prevalent as fuck, a lot of it is just any YouTube community or any community in general, is you'll upset someone and they won't tell you. They'll just be really pissy and
keep that bottled up and like
it.
hold it against you, or be like, oh, fuck that guy, you know? I think it's important to let them know, hey.
You'll only know that something's wrong when they unfollow you or block you. Like there's one guy, for example, that I really, really like named Zarachi, and he makes really good music, and he's a really great musician. And one time I just upset him, I guess, because he blocked me and he's never unblocked me. And I don't have any way to communicate him because he's blocked me everywhere else. So I'm just like, why did I piss him off? I thought we were really cool, but I guess I'll never know. So it's one of those things where you're just like, well, I guess I can't make him talk to me, so I guess I'll just be sad. Just like move on.
So just like after like the second day, you're like, oh, tomorrow for sure. And then it was like the second day, and I see you playing Final
like
Fantasy,
a breakup,
and I was
honestly.
like, hey man, we doing this thing? What's going on? And then I was like, because I didn't get any editing or streaming or anything done in like 2 days. So like, oh, not tonight either. And I was like, this motherfucker.
And I'm really fucking glad you told me, because I never would have noticed otherwise. It's really hard to pick that shit up online. But what is it? I've totally been staring off on another like random web page on Paranoia Agent, because that's my next anime review. So I was just staring at an interview with like the guy who made it.
Good shit.
It's a really good show, but you'll see that when the review drops.
Hell yeah. Oh yeah, you know, there's something else I wanted to talk about, the level design in Sonic Mania. That is another thing that I don't think people have noticed, is that these levels in Sonic Mania are a lot longer than the other Sonic games.
They really are. They're like 20 minutes for like both zones.
Yeah,
well, not 20 minutes, but more like 10,
see,
15.
that's the thing. Like, I'm pretty fast at Sonic games, and even on multiple playthroughs, I've gotten timeouts. You know, like, obviously I'm, you know, exploring a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm getting timeouts, and I'm like, what the fuck? You know, like, and I see other people getting timeouts too. I'm like, these levels are a lot bigger than some of the other Sonic games, and I think 10 minutes, as much time as that is, isn't enough to fully explore some of these Sonic levels, you know? Especially if you're looking for, like, bonus rings and shit.
I really like how when you're done with Act 1, then Act 2 is just completely remixed and crazy. And then it's just like, oh my god, this is totally flipped at all. Like, everything's different now. And there's, like, new mechanics, and especially with Chemical Plant Zone. I saw that, and I was just like, yes, you can inject goop into the goo and make it bouncier, and it's crazy.
Dude, my first thought was like, yo, is this an enema? What is this? Like, what's going on here? This fucking green jello enema.
I think I noticed there was. I think I noticed in that stage there was like, there were like a bunch of there was like the sound of like a heart monitor. It was like a beeping in the background, and that's when or something like that. And that's when I thought to myself, oh, is this like gonna be more like hospital themed? Like, what is this? And it's just, I just really like it. There's so much about Sonic Mania that's so cool. The music's really great. Like, I like how for the special stages you have that, and you can tell they messed with the audio balancing and made it more clear. They leveled out the mids a little bit better, and it's not just so crappy compressed Genesis music. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they definitely cleaned everything up. I mean, they added so many extra features too. Like, did you go into the video settings and notice they had a CRT filter?
I don't think I unlocked that actually.
That's not even unlockable. You get it from the very beginning. If you go into the video settings and the options, you can. There's smooth, crisp, and then there's CRT smooth and crisp, where it adds like the little the TV lines.
Right. No, you know what? I do remember seeing that, and I just thought to myself, for me capturing because I didn't mention, I'll be just showing Sonic Mania gameplay of me fucking up and being bad at the game while we're talking about this. I thought to myself, because I love CRT and Bloom, I love that old retro look. I actually have an N64 with an HDMI mod that has scan lines and like CRT Bloom, and sometimes if you go from like a loading screen into, you know, the new loaded area, the picture will get really big and then it'll shrink again, like an old CRT did with like the tube.
Yeah.
And it was just, I just really like that. But yeah, when I was recording, I was just like, I'm just gonna keep it plain. Like, putting artificial scan lines on really pisses people off if you put it in a video. Like, they really feel like you've tampered with the footage quality.
Really?
Yeah, at least that's, you know, the response I've gotten from some people. A lot of people really hate artificial scan lines, if they're purists anyway, you know.
I think it's a nice change of pace for something to look at, but I could see where somebody would normally obviously want it without the scan lines, but if you add them, they can look really cool, at least if they're well done, which, you know, in Mania they did do. And aside from that, they also had some really other great unlockables too. They had those bonus stages that you really don't like, where you have to collect the blue spheres. You know, there's a lot of people that actually really enjoyed those, and they would actually intentionally connect different games to Sonic and Knuckles to practice them. I wasn't really one of those people. Like, I enjoy them just fine. I'm not like a huge fan, and I don't really hate them. I'm somewhere in the middle where I'm like, yeah, they're all right.
Yeah, I would say me as well.
But the fact that they actually gave you incentive to play those and enter those special stages also kind of extended the game life, because every time I hit a checkpoint, there's a really good chance that I got to do one of those blue sphere stages. They had so many of those that it really extended how long I played it. And then after you get so many, you get debug mode, where you can like produce rings and like special item boxes, and just, you know,
they really went after everything. You know what? Speaking of Easter eggs, that's something you actually want to talk about.
Yes.
You want to talk about some of those Easter eggs and how Sonic Team's been embracing the memes lately.
Yeah, you can totally tell. Like I forget his name.
I saw the mode. I saw the Knuckles mode just called ampersand Knuckles mode has been unlocked, and I looked at that and I was like, is that the fucking meme where you put Knuckles on the box like 12 times? And
yes.
I still don't know what it's about, but I guess I'll find out.
The thing that makes that so
play.
great is that you can actually, when you put that, it just makes Knuckles added to your team. So if you're playing Sonic and Tails, now you're Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, and you have all three of them at the same time. But the best part is that you can be Knuckles and Knuckles, so you're running around with two Knuckles.
I saw someone do that stupid, you know, don't talk to me or my son ever again, and it was normal Knuckles with like shrunken Knuckles.
I saw that. I saw that meme today too. I was like, oh, that's pretty genius. But that's where you see all these people produce, like where they're making ring signs and stuff with debug mode, where it's like send nudes or anime sucks or whatever.
Yeah, I actually, my friend Orem made just a funny little clip when he was capturing, and it was just him playing Knuckles on Chemical Plant Zone, and he just said, "You can call me Knuckles. Unlike Sonic, I don't clip through walls properly," and it just. He's like, no, he's like, unlike Sonic, my collision detection doesn't work as well, or something like that, and it was really fucking funny. Like, I actually wanted to do a whole video deconstructing memes, like by definition, and giving an example of how to make memes and how to not make memes.
Unlike Sonic, I don't jump quite as high.
I'm hard as nails. It ain't hard to tell. I'll break them down whether they solid or frail. When I was a kid, I listened to that song and I was like, I don't know what any of this is, but I feel cool when I sing it.
Yo, that's some gangster rap for you, young kids.
Streaming lights, loud sounds, and instincts. Just that whole fucking song is so good to me.
Oh man! Before we change subjects again, embracing the memes. I'm not sure if you knew about this or not, but at the end of Studiopolis, did you notice the Easter egg that's referencing the terrible Sonic stream from last year where they announced Mania?
No, actually, I'm vaguely acquainted with the source material you're talking about, but I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, you remember the Sonic stream from last year where it was that and it's like the sounds.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was just
noise.
a disaster and super awkward and just like, you know.
I think people made it more awkward than it actually was.
It was the stream that made it that way because I think the event itself was fine, but you know, like Crush 40's up there and he's like handing the mic for someone to sing and it's like, and like
setting the stage for
yeah, exactly, that guy, yeah.
I love that guy.
Or like, you know, the guy in the Sonic mascot costume, he's like walking around like an old man that doesn't know where he is. And
yeah,
it's like,
they need to be guided
you know?
out because it's so big. Yeah.
Oh, and Tostinos. Like, there's so many fucking memes from that shit, right?
Totinos, how did you know?
The guy's eating them, and he's just kind of like, the nacho cheese, they're delicious. And it was funny because...
They were doing well with what they had. They were totally improvising.
Yeah, because the best part was that I was talking to my friend who's like... He's he's got the inside scoop with like that community and stuff. He was telling me that he knows that guy, and he was saying like, he was like, yeah, dude, like even before that, he hates those pizza rolls things. So you can see like knowing that when you watch him, like you don't even have to know that, but if you watch him like bite into one of those things, it's like, they're delicious. He bites off a corner of one of those pizza rolls and puts it back. Like, they're bite-sized pizza rolls meant to be eaten in one bite. And
no,
this
but
dude
if you
just,
put
like,
one of those whole things in your mouth, it's just lava.
Oh, that's true. But I think he got it off a plate that it might have been there or something like that. But he just bit like the corner. He didn't even get any of the inner filling. He just bought like, yeah, that's good, and he puts it back. And
hey man,
like,
that's how you shill.
not.
Just don't even try. Just do a little bit and then go. Yeah, this is the opinion I was told. I actually, a fun fact for you know everyone to know. I actually was approached by the Naruto Online people. And they asked me if I wanted to do a sponsorship video.
Oh, I remember you posting about that on Twitter, I think.
Yeah, I was really tempted to do it just because money's really tight lately. And
But they asked you not to... Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. You're telling
No,
the
it's
story.
cool. You were on the right track. They basically asked me to lie and not say anything was bad. They said, you can just suggest what you want improved. You can say what you liked and things that you want to see from the game, but you can't criticize anything. And I said, okay, well, I don't know if I can do this then. Because my audience isn't gonna fucking believe me if I'm just 100% endorsing of this shitty fucking web-based, like web browser flash game, and I go, this game's amazing. They're gonna be like, okay, I thought you actually had taste, fuck off.
You would lose all credit.
Yeah, and so I'm glad I didn't do that, and I was actually tempted to do a series where I just go after Audible or, you know, Dollar Shave Club, and I honestly review them, like good and bad, like just brutal, just to be like, hey guys, I will never be bought out by sponsors. Support me on Patreon because this is me proving it to you, you know. But maybe one day.
Yeah. Like the stream. Like that stream was really bad. You saw that last year, right?
I kind of saw bits and pieces, yeah.
Well, like there, you know, I'm gonna send you a video. There's this guy. Hopefully, I say his name.
Crowbee Cat.
Yeah,
I've seen that one. Yeah.
Yeah, he did a video on it where a Sonic stream version of it, like with all the like the shit that happened. Well, they embraced that. It's actually a little tiny Easter egg at the end of beating the boss of Studiopolis. You'll notice there's a giant TV screen in the background before the flying battery zone's on the screen, and they run after it. You know, and that little capsule's coming down. You actually hear it, like in the background. You hear it go.
I'll have to listen to that again.
Yeah, and in the background on the screen, there's a number. It says Sega, and then it says something else, and it has a number there. That number is the date of the stream that stream aired.
That's really funny.
So they're actually embracing that terrible anniversary that Sonic had in that stream. And
I think that kind of just embodies Sonic's personality in general, that he's just like, fuck it, why fight it, just go with it, you know?
Yeah, that's the best part.
Whatever.
They're embracing Sonic's bad history. You know, it's like the way they handled everything about that game. It's a fantastic game that's embracing the dumb shit that they've done in the past. Or they get huge brownie points and like respect from me for the fact that they don't ignore that terrible Sonic stream from last year, you know?
I think they just have my respect in general for making a really fucking good game that's very replayable and that has pretty much everything. Like, Sonic Mania is kind of a perfect game. It's basically, if you're a Sonic fan, Sonic Mania will give you all the mileage in the world. You'll be able to play it forever and ever and ever and just really enjoy it because you might want to go back and play the classics, of course, but they'll come back to Mania and be like, everything's so polished, everything's so like just rounded, and the level design's so great, and the music's amazing. Like, it's just such a good time. Like, I really enjoy it.
I think one of the smartest things they did was have only half the stages be completely new, but only having pretty much the aesthetic of these old stages, like Green Hill, Chemical Plant Zone. Like, there's only extremely small sections where you're like, oh, I remember this part, and then it's completely different for the rest of the stage. Like those Jello enemas in Chemical Plant Zone. The actual level designs are completely different, you know. So like people
Yeah, they really
see
are.
those at face value.
It's truly a remix.
Yeah, and they'll say, oh, Sonic Mania is just a combination of a bunch of already Sonic levels that we've already seen. Well, that's no, it's not, because they just look like it. Just the
I remember
is
hearing the sort of lulls from people who were just like, oh, I don't know if it's going to be really good. It's, you know, a lot of recycled levels. And then you go and you actually, you know, play it and you're like, okay, but only kind of.
It's a whole new game. The only difference
really
is that it's got Chemical Plant level like aspects thrown in there. But even then, certain aspects are updated and changed. Like the backgrounds are prettier, and like the music's been updated. It's really great, you know. Like, it's so much more than people give it credit for at first. At face value.
On the whole topic of like, you know, embracing the meme. Anyone who knows my very good friend Matthew Mannheimer Tales channel on Twitter. Back when I lived in Atlanta, we used to hang out like every weekend. He's super cool guy. He ended up basically like telling me that he's like, okay, we're making Big Fishing Adventure 3 or whatever it was called. And it's like, I think the whole idea was that they were trying to troll people by making them think that it was like Sonic Adventure 3. And then it turns out, no, we're just dicking around about this like fan-made Flash game. Like the official Sonic Twitter is pushing it. Like Aaron Weber, that's his name, right? Aaron Weber, the social media guy?
I think that's right.
It's something like that, but I like that guy too. He's really cool. So, I mean, you know, there's not really that much, getting back to the subject at hand, there's really not that much to say about Sonic Mania that hasn't already been said. Obviously, you know, people who are coming here to watch the video who have already played it, they're just coming to see if I feel the same way as them, or to hear new insight, or to disagree with some points I make. And that's all good and well and dandy. It's just one of those things where it's like everyone's already really laid out what's so great about it, and people are raving about it. It's gotten nearly like perfect scores. I think like Jim Sterling, who's known for being really picky and really
I made that
critical.
exact point as well. Is that even Jim Sterling, who I wouldn't say he's harsh, but if he will go in if he finds something wrong.
I think it's more kind of his meme that he's just like, I'm really brutal, and I don't accept inadequacy in my video games.
Thank God for me. Yeah, dude, I love.
Did I tell you I met Jim
man.
Sterling?
No, I don't think you did.
Back when I was in Atlanta, I actually tweeted it out. The picture's still somewhere on my Twitter. But I met Jim Sterling at like an Atlanta meetup with like 5 other people, and me and my friend Josiah Clark, who's a really nice guy as well.
I gotta know what he was like.
Just assume that if I follow someone and they're not a huge YouTuber, like if I actually know them, they're probably really nice. If I don't follow them, they're probably not very nice. That's just the quick version.
I'll be sure to go through your entire follow list.
Yeah, just look at who I'm following. Ignore the hentai accounts. That doesn't matter.
What? No, that's for not me.
That's for work. It's
that's
a
for
project.
Janelle. Janelle was like, follow this. I was like, okay. You know, she's got a big fan of butts. What do you want?
Yeah, like Jim Sterling tweeted out, like I was already hanging out with my friend Josiah, and Jim Sterling was like, oh, well, I'm gonna be at the, what was it called? It was like this huge restaurant in Atlanta that had like it had a big skull for a building. And it was like a really cool, like, dive bar where people would smoke inside and you'd eat like rare cheeseburgers, and it was just so good. Everything about it was unhealthy. There was like, you know, anyway, I digress. I want to go back there and eat all the food again. That's why I'm talking about it. But he had tweeted out like, I'm gonna be, where's a good place to meet? And people were like, you should come here. Vortex Bar and Grill, that's what it's called. If any one of you guys are in Atlanta and you're above 18, I think it is, and you haven't been to the Vortex Bar and Grill, actually it's 21 because they serve alcohol there, it's so goddamn good. All their food's really great. They have great beer selection.
It's
enough
a pretty cool
shilling
name,
for them.
Vortex.
It's just, yeah, Vortex Bar and Grill. Like one of the places is just like it has a giant skeleton, and you enter the establishment by walking into its mouth.
Cool.
It's really cool. But we went to like the nicer uptown version, I think, and it's just sat on the front patio. And a lot of us were just talking to him, and I actually was the one talking to Jim Sterling. Everyone else was just kind of like silently listening and like, oh, can I have your autograph? You know, just not really sure how to respond. And I was just talking to him like, oh, you know, fucking you're a YouTuber or whatever. He was really nice. People asked him like, what's up with the shrimp? And he's like, I don't know. And and then I had told him about like, you know, how I do YouTube and blah 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 whatever, hoping that like maybe he'd follow me or subscribe to me or whatever. And I told him I was like, I already have 50,000 subscribers on Twitter or on YouTube, so you know I like to think that I'm actually making progress. And he actually interrupted me, nodded vigorously, and said, "That's very good." He was basically saying, "You have real potential to make this into a living if you keep going with it." And I'm just like, oh shit, I actually got him like interested. It was just really cool. Jim Sterling, he may have divisive political opinions, and I don't always agree with everything he says either, but the guy's...
Well, I mean, it's clear that he's like mostly a character from what you can tell. That's why I'm really interested to see what he's like when you meet him in person. I bet you he's just like amazing. I bet
he's a little shy.
Yeah, I bet
just
you
like
he's
every
like
other YouTuber.
really sweet in person. You know, like it's obviously a character because people like really brash.
Yeah.
You know, opinionated.
No, he was very
people.
polite.
So I imagine him being just like really cool and down to earth like person.
And it's kind of hard to talk to like, you know, fans or whatever when you're a YouTuber, because you want to be what you think they think you are, if that makes any sense. You want to like, if you're Markiplier, for example, and you meet a fan, he probably thinks that they want him to be like, hey, how's it going? Oh my God, I'm so scared, you know, or whatever, just be generally rambunctious. Mm-hmm. But then they meet him and they realize, oh, that's kind of my online persona. I'm actually very kind of calm and introverted.
Yeah.
And, but then you
not
think
a lot of people that act that way like all the time. That would be they would
yeah.
either have to be on drugs all the time or
yeah,
you'd have to be on something.
And so it's just like, you know, they probably think, oh, I don't want to, you know, I'm really self-conscious now because I don't want to act standoffish and have them think that I'm stuck up, but I also don't want to, because if you act really, really buddy-buddy and friendly, they'll think, oh, we're actually friends now. And then if you later, when you get home and they're trying to follow you and tweet you and interact with you and you're like, oh shit, maybe I was a little too eager, or maybe I got their hopes up, and then you kind of try to distance yourself from them, and then they're like, oh, they're fake, or whatever. Like there's always something that can go wrong. So if you ever meet your favorite YouTuber and they're really withdrawn, that's probably why. It's because they don't want to get anyone's hopes up or just leave a bad impression on anyone. But anyway, I want to apologize because we did a lot of talking about other things other than Sonic Mania, but we did a lot of general Sonic talking, so I think that kind of makes up for it. It was all fairly themed, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
But, I mean, you know, it's a platformer that's an homage to an older game. I don't really think there's that much you can talk about with it that's too groundbreaking. You can't talk about, like, voice acting. Oh, you know what? I can't talk about voice acting. I hate the announcer's voice. I know a lot of people are talking about, you know, oh, he's not that bad, and he isn't that bad. I just think that if they were gonna get an announcer to sound excited, they should have gone more for Street Fighter Alpha 3 kind of style, where it's like, go for broke! Go! Rather than a guy who's like... The
voice actor scares me. It might have something to do with the audio levels, but dude, like I remember I was doing a time trial and then I hit the goal and it was like goal, and I was like, oh shit, Jesus Christ!
He sounds like, kind of hoarse. He sounds a little bit strained, and I'm sure that he's a good voice actor, but in this particular scenario, he didn't sound comfortable and he didn't sound young. He sounded kind of like a young guy trying to sound older. Like he sounded like maybe a younger voice actor that's like, fuck, I have to sound like an announcer, so I have to sound introducing the new Fiat 500, you know, and then you're like, oh fuck, I have to sound like that. I have to sound like Don LaFontaine. And then you're like, oh, I'll just try to do the deepest voice I can. You know, he's no what, Xander Woods, is that his name? The guy did the Smash announcer?
I think that sounds
It was
right.
Xander Mobus. I was thinking of the wrestler guy. I think. I don't even know what I'm thinking anymore. It's
started with a Z, I know that.
Yeah, I think it's an X. It's like Xander Mobus. That guy, you talk to him and he just sounds like a normal dude, and then he does his voiceover and you hear that he can actually go really deep and you're like, oh shit. The Sonic Mania narrator was like the opposite of that.
It is kind of weird, like, but I mean, there's not really
it really
much
wasn't
voice
that
acting.
bad. It was just, sorry to cut you off, it really wasn't terrible. It was just, you know, C+, you know, fit, but everything else in the game is so perfect that it's weird that felt kind of like an oversight almost.
Yeah, like, I guess I didn't have so much of a problem with his voice personally. I mean, I'm not much of a voice actor as is. I've only done, like a really small project that a friend did or something like that. It was an episode on this zoo thing or whatever. So it's like I'm not really good at analyzing voice acting. All I know is that when I actually hit the goal, he scares the living bejesus out of me because he's so much louder than the rest of the game. Like, I was streaming it, and I was like, all right, let's do a time trial, and I was doing it. And I'm like, all right, here comes the goal, and I was like, I hit it, and he's like, goal! I'm like, fuck, yeah, I know, dude. God damn it. Like, oh, man,
I think
was
I
on
could have
stream.
I think I could have figured that out just by hearing the wee 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 or whatever sound effect happens, and you don't need to actually announce
what'd
it.
I do?
It's because there's
Like-
never voices in a 2D Sonic game, so it's like, why add them now?
Yeah,
That was the
that's
one thing I think was a
the other
little
thing
bit
is that
weird.
there's no voice acting it's like totally story driven without any sort of text or dialogue, which I think is really great. But then you're playing the time trial and it's like, hey, voice acting. You're like, oh god damn.
I just love that in Sonic 3, whenever, like, I mean, I think most people have probably accepted the rumor now that Michael Jackson played a part, because it's pretty fucking obvious when you actually listen to the
there's
music.
many documentaries on YouTube that if you haven't seen them, man, I gotta show them.
Oh, please link me that after this.
Oh yeah, dude, there's like 3 of them. There's like the original from years ago, and there's been updates since then. It's really amazing.
Like, I love that, like, when you run into a mini boss, the music was like, and I heard that, and I was like, fuck yeah, we gonna dance. And then, like, the new one in Sonic Mania, it's good, but it's not Sonic 3 good, you know?
Yeah, you can see Michael Jackson and his crew's involvement in the music. But one of the more recent ones that was discovered, and now I can't stop listening to the fucking song, is there's this band called the Jetsons, not Jetsons like the cartoon, but with a Z. And they did
weird.
Yeah, the Jetsons, and the song is called Hard Times, and it is Ice Cap Zone. Like, the guys that worked on Ice Cap Zone, it's that song, but they have, dude, I'm gonna send it to you after this, this
please,
podcast is over, because it sounds super like 80s kind of.
I might post it in the video description too, so if any of you guys look down in the description, you might see it. If it's not there, nag me, I'll add it.
Yeah, it's super good. Like, as soon as I heard it, and I was like, hard times. Da, 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 da.
Oh, I have heard that a little bit, actually.
Yeah, that's how. And there's like a
sounds like
remix
fucking
version.
Depeche Mode, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's kind of like almost like, oh man, I can't.
That's
think
how
of
good
it
your impression was. It just immediately like ding, like a light on in my head.
Yeah. Hard times.
I remember I actually did a video for my friend Jeroen, who does all my 3D animations and stuff like that. And he actually, I was reading the script for his, like, kind of Sonic, it was like the making of Sonic the Hedgehog or something that he had made. It was really, really good. And he played a clip of the special stage music from Sonic 1, the whole da-na-na-na-na-na-da-na-na-na. And he showed me, or he put in that video, he showed me specifically, no one else. He put it in the video of, in that video there was the whole thing, there was the clip of Nakamura, like the song that he had made, and what it sounded like before they kind of, you know, compressed it and squished it down and make it fit on the Genesis cartridge. And it was crazy to hear, like, oh, this is what it was supposed to sound like with all the audio and everything, like, fully there. It was just, I don't know, I'm such a geek for, like, that whole documentary behind the scenes, oh, we wanted to do this. I was watching a documentary like that on the making of The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, and it was just really interesting to see all the people who were involved, and to see, like, the journey they went on.
Especially when they're about, like, video games and shit that I'm really interested in.
Yeah.
That's why I'm really surprised you hadn't seen some of the Michael Jackson ones.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know why I haven't seen them, but I definitely want to see them now.
I'm gonna send some shit your way.
Yeah, oh yeah. But anyway, it is like 1:30 in the morning now, and the air conditioning has not been on for, I want to say like an hour and a half or so.
Sweaty Chase.
I'm very sweaty right now. I'm very fucking sweaty. Subscribe to me on Patreon. I'll send you a vial of my fucking sweat. Bet you
Yo,
there's
what
people that
tier
have
is
actually...
that? I gotta sign up now. Get a Ziploc bag and everything.
It's $1,000.
How do I know it's authentic, Chase? Oh, that's Chase.
You'll smell me. You'll smell my pheromones. That's fucking revolting. Anyway, but yeah, fucking hope you guys liked hearing us talk about Sonic Mania, and I hope you guys liked hearing one of my closest friends, Cliff. Really nice guy.
Thanks for listening.
If you want to go check. So, if any of you guys don't know, if you have an Amazon Prime account, which is the thing where you get like free 2-day shipping and you can stream some video from Amazon, they have a thing now. Since Amazon bought Twitch, right? You can log in with your Prime account and stuff like that, and you can subscribe.
Yeah, you subscribe to channels for free with Twitch Prime. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's just like once a month you have one subscription thing, and I felt bad because I gave it to like Dr. What's his name? The guy who
Disrespect. He's like
Dr.
the face
Disrespect.
of Twitch,
and he's really great. But I was like, that motherfucker doesn't need any more money. He's good, you know. And so I went back after that, and I gave my subscription to Cliff, and he was just like, and he has some pretty great like songs and pictures that show whenever you subscribe or donate or whatever. So if you guys want to help support the show indirectly, or at least morally, ethically, I'm doing a lot of hand gestures you can't see right now, then, you know, please go over to Battle Athlete. If you have a Prime account, if you have like one of those free subscription things, just give them your subscription. For anyone that's listened this long, I like to do this to incentivize people to like listen all the way to the end, you know what I mean? For anyone who is, you know, listening still, some of my next videos are going to be, I'm going to get back to the Pokemon video really, really soon, but I think I'm going to do a review on Paranoia Agent first, which is a really great Satoshi Kon anime that I am really going to look into some of the music in it and what I really like about it.
I really liked your Dragon Maid review, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was, you know, it could have been better. I didn't really research it that much. I just kind of, you know,
just watched it and gave your thoughts on it, which is all what people really want.
I pretty much aimed from the hip. There were a few people that were like, you really didn't understand any of this. Like, there was one person that actually kind of schooled me. They're like, this is actually about, you know, international relationships.
Oh yeah, it's about like lesbian relationships or something like that.
Yeah, and I was like, that's a really good point. But he was just kind of like, if you think this is surface level, you don't know what you're talking about. And I was just like, no, dude, I
never noticed that either. But then I was like, oh yeah, it's really, you know, when they mentioned it to me, I'm like, yeah, that does make it even better.
It does make a lot of sense.
I have to give you way more credit for the Jello pudding jiggle thing. Was that you?
That Zoini did that. Zoini, who's one of my editors now, he's fucking amazing.
Medal.
Dude, he's just a great guy. He knows what's funny, and he has a natural. If you watch Zoni's videos, like he's just a really funny dude.
Yeah, I have seen his videos too. I watched like I think 1 or 2 of his reviews. But yeah, dude, when that little jiggly pudding thing came up, I was like,
yeah, Cam and I were cracking up when we saw that one.
I love that sound effect.
I looked at her. I was like, I didn't even tell him to do this. He just did this on his own. And he played the slow down. It was really creepy.
Dude, I'm gonna make that little pudding jiggle like my text tone or something. That's gonna be
that sound effect of woo woo woo.
I am gonna do that actually. Like no joke. I'm gonna rip it straight from your video, and then
dude, hell yeah.
You know what? Actually, tell Zoni to hit me up and send me the file for that jiggly pudding pointing sound.
Yeah, I'll see if you can do that. But anyway, go check out Battle Athlete on Twitch and check him out on YouTube. Give him a subscription. Why don't you fucking do it? You haven't done it. I'm upset.
Guy, but you know something.
I'm watching you, viewer. You didn't do it. Like, I see you're like, oh yeah, you know, I don't have the means to subscribe. Subscribe to Cliff. Subscribe to Battle Athlete.
Why don't you? Times that Chaseface doesn't upload. I'll be your backup, bitch, or whatever.
You know what? I'm fucking shutting down the stream now just for that. Fuck you.
Yeah, whenever Chase isn't uploading and you feel lonely, I'll be your side whore. Just come check out my channel. Look at my shitty reviews and
Jimmy,
it's not Chaseface. It's not Chaseface.
Jimmy, cut it off. Cut the stream. Cut it off now.